Chapter 40-49. Suddenly, 3 streaks of light appeared in the sky. The 3 streaks of light were extremely fast and appeared above the Rift Valley in the blink of an eye. As the light faded, everyone noticed that the true appearance of the 3 streams of light was 3 glowing divine ships. Chief Lu, the opening of the Ghost King Ridge is really a grand occasion for Huxley. There are actually so many juniors participating in this trial. On the divine ship on the left, a man with an aquiline nose said ambiguously, "Chief Yu, the Ghost King Ridge is Huxley's territory. I, Huxley, can enter as many as I want. There's no need for you to worry about such a small matter," Lu Renjue said indifferently. He. Then I'm looking forward to seeing if there's a genius among the younger generation of Huxley who can fight with my disciple. The aquiline nose man laughed and said to the youth beside him, "Disciple, you have to perform well this time. Don't ruin the reputation of our Jinshui clan. Do you understand?" The youth was very handsome and his skin was fairer than snow. However, his cold eyes destroyed his overall beauty. "Master, don't worry. The only ones among the younger generation of Huxley that I can look straight at are Lei Ling and Bingyu. The others, he." When the youth mentioned the others, a disdainful smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. The youth's words were too arrogant. In the open space, many young cultivators of Huxley glared at him. They were very unhappy with the youth. Zhuowen stood beside Luke and silently sized up the 3 divine ships suspended in midair. After Luke's introduction, he also knew the origins of the people on the 3 divine ships. The aquiline nose man was called Yuri and was the chief of the Jinshui clan. The fair-skinned youth beside him was Yuri's disciple, Fu Ming. He was the most famous genius of the Jinshui clan and was definitely not weaker than Lei Ling. In fact, he was even stronger. On the other 2 divine ships were the people of God's Eye and Purple Mirage. The patriarch of God's Eye was an old man named Lung Yangyu. He had an extra eye between his eyebrows. It was said that this was the innate ability of God's Eye. It was called the Divine Eye and possessed great power. The descendant brought by God's Eye was their clan's strongest genius, Lung Feifei. Lung Feifei also had a vertical eye in between her eyebrows. She was extremely beautiful, but her temperament was extremely cold. She had an unapproachable look. The leader of the Purple Mirage, Xiao Zihui, was a beautiful woman in a purple robe. She had a graceful figure, and her every movement exuded a breathtaking charm. Although she didn't say anything, she made many hot-blooded young cultivators fall head over heels for her. They couldn't take their eyes off her. The descendant of the Purple Mirage was also a young woman named Jian Wuqing. She wore a loose warrior's robe and had 2 purple longswords tied to her waist. She also carried 2 long swords on her back. She wasn't particularly beautiful, but she had a heroic air about her. She was like a peerless sword that had just been unsheathed. Zhuowen's eyes were like torches. He could tell at a glance that the 3 descendants brought by the 3 clans were extraordinary. They weren't weaker than Lei Ling. In fact, they were even stronger. Lu Renjue naturally noticed the 3 talented juniors. He couldn't help but frown. If the 3 of them entered the Ghost King Ridge together and joined forces, Lei Ling and the rest would definitely be no match for them. Looking at their condition, it was obvious that they would join forces. Lu Renjue subconsciously glanced at Zhuowen who was beside Luke. If it was before, he might have been worried. But now, he was much calmer. Zhuowen was Huxley's real trump card. With Zhuowen around, Huxley would definitely not be at a disadvantage in this trial. He might even have the upper hand. Luke naturally noticed Lu Renjue's gaze. He smiled bitterly in his heart. Only he knew that after the Ghost King Ridge opened, Zhuowen wouldn't help Lei Ling and the rest. He wouldn't find trouble with Fu Ming and the rest. He only had one goal, and that was to save Shan Lingyun. "Patriarch Lu, there's no need to beat around the bush. The Ghost King Ridge is about to open. You should also talk about the rules of the Ghost King Ridge trials." Lung Yenyu stroked his long white beard and said with a faint smile. Lu Renjue nodded and said, "The Ghost King Ridge has a time limit of 1 month. In this 1 month, you will be trapped in the Ghost King Ridge. After a month, you will be transported out. What you need to do is to survive and work hard to improve yourself. The Ghost King Ridge is very beneficial to you. Don't waste this opportunity. Of course, the most important point is that you can't kill each other. If I find out that someone deliberately kills others in the Ghost King Ridge, after the Ghost King Ridge closes, I will personally find that person and make him pay with his life. When Lu Renjue said this, his tone became murderous. He even looked coldly at Yuri and the rest. Obviously, his words were meant for Yuri and the rest. Yuri and the rest narrowed their eyes but didn't say anything. They still had a smile on their faces and it was hard to tell what they were thinking. Chief Lu, the rules have been explained. It's about time to open the Ghost King Ridge. Yuri smiled. Lu Renjue didn't answer but nodded. Then, he led the 3 great guardians to the entrance of the Ghost King Ridge. At the entrance of the Ghost King Ridge, black fog swirled and surged. Horrifying screams came from the black fog. It was mournful and terrifying. Lu Renjue and the 3 great guardians each took out an exquisite array flag. Then, the 4 of them combined their hands and formed a seal. When the 4 of them took out the array flag, the entrance of the Ghost King Ridge rippled violently. Then, an oval-shaped gap as tall as a person appeared. The Ghost King Ridge has opened. Everyone, please come in. Lu Renjue took back the array flag and blocked the black fog with his great power. He looked at the people in the open space and let out a magnificent and loud voice. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Just as Lu Renjue's voice fell, the young cultivators in the open space who couldn't wait turned into streaks of light and went into the gap. Junior sister Samai, after entering the Ghost King Ridge, follow me closely, okay? Zhuoan told Samai. Samai nodded seriously. She had already received Luke's instructions. She must be inseparable from Zhuoan in the Ghost King Ridge. With Zhuoan's strength, it was enough to protect her through this month. Let's go. Zhuoan stepped forward with his right foot and pulled Samai into a streak of light. They disappeared in the blink of an eye. Disciple, you can only succeed in this mission. Failure is not an option. Don't let me down. Yuri secretly transmitted his voice. Chapter 40-50. Lu Renjue frowned slightly. He could vaguely sense that Yuri, Leng Yangyu, and Xiao Zihui had secretly sent telepathic messages to their disciples when their disciples had set off. Although the telepathic messages were brief, he could still sense the ripples of the messages. Yuri, Leng Yangyu, and Xiao Zihui, you'd better not play any tricks. Otherwise, I, Huxley, will definitely make you pay, Lu Renjue thought to himself. Although he was a little uneasy, he was quite confident in his arrangements. Even if Yuri and the others played any tricks, he would still be able to resolve them one by one, and even fiercely counterattack. Roar. Shrill howls resounded throughout the entire Ghost King Ridge. As soon as Zhuoan and Samai entered Ghost King Ridge, they discovered that the surrounding black fog was rolling. Moreover, evil spirits suddenly rushed out of the black fog and pounced toward Zhuoan with bared fangs and brandished claws. Just as Zhuoan was about to attack, Samai, who was beside him, attacked first and eliminated all the evil spirits that pounced toward them. Zhuoan looked at Samai in surprise. If he was not wrong, Samai's technique should be a type of exorcism technique. Samai, are you from the exorcist family? Zhuoan could not help but ask. According to what he knew, only the exorcist family had the ability to exorcise evil spirits. Samai shook his head and said, Senior brother, don't you know that Huxley has a large number of exorcism manuals? Huxley's disciples will also practice exorcism techniques in the process of cultivation. After all, evil spirits are everywhere in the 100 outer realms. If you do not have the means to deal with evil spirits, you will be at a disadvantage. I see. Zhuoan understood. After all, he had just entered Huxley not long ago, so he did not know much about these things. At the same time, Zhuoan also learned from Samai that many hidden exorcist families in the Huxley realm were inextricably linked to the Huxley divine city behind them. Many of the younger generation of exorcist families would often come to Hushu City to further their studies. It was because of this relationship that the divine city of Hushu had many exorcism manuals from the aristocratic families of exorcists. Of course, most of them were copies. The original copies were naturally in their respective exorcist families. The evil spirits in the periphery of Ghost King Ridge were all extremely low-level evil spirits. Zhuowen basically did not need to make a move, Samai could easily deal with them. The chaotic energy in the Ghost King Ridge is indeed of a higher grade. Zhuowen could not help but sigh as he felt the energy aura spreading around the Ghost King Ridge. Even the absolute divine hall couldn't compare to the Ghost King Ridge. Just as Lu Renjue had said, this was a holy land for cultivation. Of course, the Ghost King Ridge was too terrifying. Most of the cultivators who entered would face life-threatening danger. It was obviously difficult to cultivate here for a long time. However, for Zhuowen, this was not difficult at all. To him, the evil spirits were food for his cultivation. In this place, it was not him who was afraid of the evil spirits, but the evil spirits who were afraid of him. If not for the fact that he did not want to be too ostentatious, he only needed to release his aura and the evil spirits around him would be scared out of their wits. Senior brother, since we have to stay here for a month, we just need to find a secluded place and concentrate on cultivation for this month, Samai suggested. Zhuowen shook his head and said seriously, Samai, I need to go into the depths of Ghost King Ridge. It will be very dangerous. I hope you can wait for me in the periphery. When I come back, I will find you. Samai looked at Zhuowen's serious face. She was silent for a moment and said with a smile, in that case, I will wait for you in the periphery. Zhuowen's eyes revealed an apologetic look. He hesitated for a moment, took out a disc array and handed it to Samai, and said, Junior sister, if you encounter any danger, immediately use this disc array. It can help you avoid a life and death crisis. Samai forced a smile and took the disc array, but she did not care much. Thank you, senior brother. Samai lowered her head and said, Take care. Zhuowen patted Samai's head, then used his movement technique and rushed into the depths of Ghost King Ridge. Samai stared blankly at Zhuowen's back as he left. She stood on the spot for a long time before putting away the disc array and heading in another direction. After Zhuowen parted with Samai, his speed became faster and faster. He was like a bolt of black lightning that flashed and disappeared. His aura also became stronger and stronger, surrounding him like a hurricane. The surrounding evil spirits wanted to charge forward and tear Zhuowen to shreds. However, after sensing this aura, they were like mice that had seen a cat and fled in fear. Some of the evil spirits that fled too slowly were swept up by this aura and crushed into pieces, turning into a trace of energy in Zhuowen's body. Master, I hope nothing happens to you. Zhuowen's gaze was extremely cold. At the periphery of Ghost King Ridge, Fu Ming, Leng Feifei, and Jian Wuqing were walking slowly. Jian Wuqing's eyes were sharp as a terrifying sword qi burst out from his body and spread out in all directions. Many evil spirits were immediately torn apart after entering this sword qi domain. Feifei, Wuqing, do you want to kill people? Or do you want to unseal the Ghost King? Fu Ming stopped and looked at the two women beside him with a smile. Kill people. Jian Wuqing replied straightforwardly. I also think that killing people is more interesting, Leng Feifei said coldly. The smile on Fu Ming's lips grew wider and his eyes narrowed into arcs. He laughed and said, We really have the same idea. I want to kill people too. I want to kill everyone in Ghost King Ridge. I want to pile their heads into a mountain, their bones into a throne, and their flesh and blood into a carpet. Just thinking about it makes me feel that this is a supreme art. Just thinking about it makes me tremble with excitement. Fu Ming threw his head back and laughed, his voice becoming cold and sinister. Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei looked coldly at Fu Ming's perverted performance, a trace of disgust in their eyes. The reason why they chose to kill people was because they did not want to go deep into Ghost King Ridge. As for Fu Ming, it was entirely because it was his hobby. If we all choose to kill people, who will complete the mission? Leng Feifei frowned. Fu Ming also calmed down and said in a low voice, Why don't we do this? Anyway, we have a month. Let's search for the Ghost King's sealed place first. If we meet anyone, we'll kill them all. After we find the Ghost King's sealed place, we'll unseal it first. It won't be too late to unseal it after we kill everyone. Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei frowned. This Fu Ming was really a bloodthirsty fellow. He was actually so passionate about killing people. Fu Ming, this mission is important. It's easy for accidents to happen like this. Lei Ling and Bing, you are not simple. If we are held back by them, we won't be able to complete the mission. Jian Wuqing snorted coldly. Chapter 40-51. The Ghost King Ridge was shrouded in black fog, evil spirits were rampant, and ghosts were like shadows. Any cultivator who entered the Ghost King Ridge was basically using all kinds of methods to resist the evil spirits in the black fog. And the evil spirits were even more fearless. Like locusts, they launched the fiercest attacks on the cultivators who entered the Ghost King Ridge. But there was a figure quietly moving forward in the Ghost King Ridge. But the strange thing was that wherever this person passed, the black fog dispersed and the ghosts fled, not daring to approach. And he was Zhuowen. Zhuowen continued to go deeper into the Ghost King Ridge. His speed was not fast, but his divine sense searched very carefully, not letting go of any clues. Of course, many evil spirits came to his door, and Zhuowen accepted them without hesitation. On the way, Zhuowen met a lot of Huxley's clansmen. What made Zhuowen helpless was that these young cultivators of Huxley were extremely afraid of him. As soon as they met him, they immediately scattered like birds and beasts. Of course, there were also some clansmen who tried to approach him and form an alliance with him, but were coldly rejected by Zhuowen. The closer he got to the depths of the Ghost King Ridge, the fewer people there were. Zhuowen continued to move forward for about 10 days, and he had not met anyone on the way. Oh. Suddenly, there was the sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling in front of him, and then Zhuowen saw a cloud of black fog quickly surging in front of him. Almost countless evil spirits were condensed in the black fog. Zhuowen was surprised that these evil spirits were not afraid of him at all, and flew straight toward him. With his current aura, he could be said to be the nemesis of evil spirits. Once the evil spirits came within a certain range of him, they would immediately be refined into the purest power by his mighty Hong Meng divine power. Thus, all along the way, all the evil spirits Zhuo when encountered were practically like mice that had encountered a cat, and they fled in panic without knowing where to go. And now, the situation was greatly unexpected. The evil spirits that should have been afraid of him were rushing toward him in groups, which was indeed quite strange. Oh. The black fog rolled over, and in the blink of an eye, it was only a few hundred feet away from Zhuowen. Zhuowen harumphed coldly as grand mist god force gushed out from his body. The group of evil spirits at the forefront of the black mist didn't even have time to scream before they were annihilated by the vast grand mist god force and refined into the purest form of energy. It was only then that the group of evil spirits in the black fog discovered Zhuowen's existence. They let out terrified shrieks and retreated a distance away. However, although these evil spirits were afraid of Zhuowen's terrifying aura, they did not disperse because of it. Instead, they hesitated to move forward. Zhuowen was really puzzled. These evil spirits were clearly afraid of his majestic grand mist god force, but why were they so afraid of him? Logically speaking, after these evil spirits had suffered such a huge loss, they should have fled. But now, the situation was very strange. Not only did these evil spirits not escape, they were hesitating instead, as if something was chasing them from behind, causing them to not dare to retreat at all. Could it be? Zhuowen's expression changed greatly, as if he had suddenly thought of something. At this moment, an earth-shattering howl suddenly sounded from the depths of the Ghost King Ridge. This howl was similar to the sound of metal scraping against metal, causing one's hair to stand on end. Ao. The evil spirits in the black mist immediately let out anxious and sorrowful cries. Then, under Zhuowen's astonished gaze, these evil spirits rushed towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen's brows furrowed slightly, but he did not stop these evil spirits. Instead, he lowered his head and fell into deep thought. The evil spirits were extremely fast. With the cover of the black mist, they passed by Zhuowen in the blink of an eye and disappeared into the darkness behind Zhuowen. The terrifying howl was getting closer and closer, as if it was approaching at an incredible speed. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly. He had a hunch that the owner of this howl was definitely an existence far stronger than the evil spirits. Could it be a ghost? Zhuoan suddenly remembered what Luke had said when he had introduced the Ghost King Ridge. He had said that there were countless evil spirits in the Ghost King Ridge, and that it was a paradise for evil spirits. But in addition to evil spirits, there was also something called eerie spirits. Evil spirits were formless and intangible, while ghosts had a substantial body, but they were even more eerie and terrifying than evil spirits. He he he. Suddenly, a creepy and strange laughter came from behind Zhuoan. The sound was very close, as if it was right next to his ear. At the same time, a pair of pale hands suddenly landed on Zhuoan's shoulders. This pair of pale hands was very thin and weak, almost like skin and bones. The surface of the strange white skin was covered with a dense number of maggots. A strong stench assailed his nostrils, and Zhuoan felt the weight on his shoulders increase greatly. His knees could not help but bend. If one looked carefully, there was a huge pit under Zhuoan's feet, which was caused by the huge weight on his body. He he he. The strange laughter was very close, and the pair of pale hands immediately grabbed Zhuoan's throat. Human cultivator, you've got guts, daring to invade the territory of our ghost clan. I haven't tasted you humans for a long time. This sweet and delicious taste really makes me drool. The creepy voice sounded in Zhuoan's ears, and it was full of greed. Zhuoan was very calm, and he said lightly, "So you're a ghost. Your strength is indeed much stronger than most evil spirits. Unfortunately, you've picked the wrong target. He he he. Human, you're still so stubborn even when death is at hand. Fine, you'll become my meal." The ghost's cold voice sounded. Just as the ghost was about to attack, a terrifying aura suddenly burst out from Zhuoan's body. Zhuoan's black hair fluttered despite the lack of wind. Dense purple-gold energy surged out like a vast ocean. Ah! The ghost was caught off guard, and he was sent flying by the force of the aura, landing heavily on the ground not far away. At this moment, Zhuoan suddenly turned around, and he used his index and middle fingers to form a sword, and pointed at the ghost not far away. A purple-gold energy burst out, and landed on the ghost's body. As if it had suffered a heavy blow, the ghost let out a shrill cry. Its originally solid body became dim and lifeless. Why is the exorcism power in your body so strong? The ghost lay on the ground, trembling, and his eyes were full of fear as he stared at Zhuoan. Zhuoan looked at the ghost in front of him in surprise. He knew very well how strong the vast grand mist power in his body was. Even if it was an evil spirit, if it was hit by his energy just now, its soul would be scattered. But the ghost in front of him was only heavily injured. At the same time, he saw the ghost's true face. Chapter 4052. It seems that Gui Mai is indeed much stronger than the evil spirits. This Gui Mai's strength is probably not inferior to the formation-level evil spirits. Zhuoan pondered. Among the 9 levels of evil spirits, the formation level was the 6th level. He had never encountered an evil spirit of this level. Run! Gui Mai saw that Zhuoan was distracted and his eyes flashed. Without thinking, he turned into a stream of light and fled into the depths of the Ghost King Ridge. Humph! Want to escape? Not so easy. Zhuoan snorted and waved his sleeve. A vast amount of grand mist divine power turned into a purple-gold light. This purple-gold light was extremely fast and caught up with Gui Mai in an instant and tied him up. Gui Mai's face changed greatly. This light formed by the vast amount of grand mist divine power was his nemesis. After he was tied up, a sense of powerlessness surged in his body and he fell to the ground, unable to move. Human, how dare you? I am the descendant of the Ghost King. If you kill me, the Ghost King will not let you go. Gui Mai, with disheveled hair, shouted in a restrained voice. If you say one more word, I will kill you now. Zhuoan came to Gui Mai's side and looked down at him condescendingly. His voice was filled with killing intent. Zhuoan naturally knew that there was a Ghost King in the Ghost King Ridge. Unfortunately, that Ghost King was sealed. This Gui Mai actually used the Ghost King to threaten him. It was simply ridiculous. Sure enough, Gui Mai was stunned by Zhuoan's words. He lay on the ground and trembled. What do you want? Gui Mai was weak. He had lived in the Ghost King Ridge for so long and naturally met many cultivators who entered the Ghost King Ridge to train. Among these cultivators he met, some of them were not much weaker than Zhuowen, but none of them had the ability to exorcise evil spirits as terrifying as Zhuowen. It could be said that Zhuowen's vast amount of grand mist divine power was the nemesis of all evil spirits and ghosts. As long as you answer one of my questions seriously, I won't kill you, Zhuowen said coldly. Gui Mai's eyes revealed a glimmer of hope. He hurriedly said, Master, I will definitely tell you everything I know, I will not hold back. Zhuowen nodded and continued, I heard that there is a person imprisoned in the Ghost King Ridge, is this true? Ghost's eyes flickered, revealing a look of hesitation. Speak. Otherwise, die. Zhuowen shouted coldly. Gui Mai's whole body trembled. He was so scared that he hurriedly said, It is true, but this person was personally imprisoned in the depths of Ghost King Ridge by Huxley's patriarch Lu Renjue. This person is of great importance. Moreover, Lu Renjue had an agreement with Lord Ghost King. Thus, a portion of Lord Ghost King's power is guarding that person. Gui Mai looked at Zhuowen uneasily. He did not know why Zhuowen was asking about this person's whereabouts. However, he had some guesses in his heart, which made him feel even more uneasy. I heard that the Ghost King was personally sealed by Huxley's patriarch. Furthermore, every patriarch of Huxley's patriarch would seal him. Logically speaking, the Ghost King and Huxley's patriarch have an irreconcilable feud. Why is the Ghost King helping Lu Renjue? Zhuowen's gaze became very sharp. Gui Mai smiled bitterly and said, Although Lord Ghost King was personally sealed by Huxley's patriarch, he is still living under someone else's roof. Sometimes, he has no choice but to lower his head. Zhuowen nodded his head. He was extremely agitated. He knew that the person Gui Mai was talking about should be Shan Lingyun. However, Zhuowen's expression did not change. Instead, he said in a low voice, Then bring me to the place where that person is imprisoned now. Gui Mai was so frightened that he hurriedly knelt on the ground and said, Master, please spare my life. The place where the person is imprisoned is a forbidden area for us Gui Mai. If we trespass without permission, Lord Ghost King will not let us off easily. Zhuowen's expression instantly turned cold. With a murderous look, he said, Then do you want to die now, or do you want to live for a while longer? Gui Mai trembled and knelt on the ground, not saying a word. I can promise you that if you bring me to the place where the person is imprisoned, I can save your life. Zhuowen's tone became gentler. Gui Mai still did not say a word. Zhuowen completely lost his patience and said, Since you are not willing to bring me there is no value in you living. As he said that, Zhuowen stretched out his right hand. Blazing purple gold energy gathered in Zhuowen's palm. Gui Mai, who was originally motionless, suddenly raised his head and said in a trembling voice, Master, please wait. I am willing to bring you to the place where the person is imprisoned. Zhuowen's body moved without any wind. He looked down coldly at Gui Mai, who was trembling in fear. He did not say a word, but the murderous look in his eyes seemed to have materialized. Seeing that Zhuowen did not have any intention of stopping, Gui Mai was completely frightened. He kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. Zhuowen clenched his right hand, and the purple gold energy gathered in his palm dissipated with a loud bang. Lead the way. If you dare to play any tricks, I will immediately kill you. Zhuowen said calmly. Yes, yes, yes. Gui Mai was delighted and quickly agreed. Next, Gui Mai led the way in front, while Zhuowen silently followed behind. On the way, after some conversation, Zhuowen also learned that this Gui Mai was called Bai Shui Gui. Bai Shui Gui's strength in Ghost King Ridge could only be considered average. It could be said that he was relatively unremarkable among the many Gui Mai. Bai Shui Gui, your luck is not bad. Ghost King Ridge has just opened, and you have already caught a human cultivator. Not long after Bai Shui Gui led the way, a gloomy voice suddenly came from the front. In front of them, a thick black fog swept over. This black fog was filled with many evil spirits. These evil spirits continued to stack together, forming a huge throne. These evil spirits were all frightened and did not dare to move. A huge black figure was sitting on the seat that was formed by the evil spirits. This black figure was at least 3 feet tall, and his entire body was covered with thick black hair. Looking carefully, this figure's appearance was very similar to a huge black bear. Black bear ghost, why are you here? Bai Shui Gui's face was a little ugly. Black bear ghost casually picked up an evil spirit beside him and stuffed it into his mouth. His mouth chewed, and the chewing sound was exceptionally horrifying. Black bear ghost's scarlet eyes looked past Bai Shui Gui and landed on Zhuowen. His eyes were filled with greed. He licked his lips and said, Bai Shui Gui, I have my eyes on this human cultivator. You can scram. White water ghost was enraged and said, Black bear ghost, how dare you? Is this lord someone you can offend? Oh, you called him lord? Ha ha ha. Bai Shui Gui, although I know you are very cowardly, I did not expect you to be so cowardly. You actually submitted to a human cultivator. You are a disgrace to us Ghost King descendants. Black bear ghost laughed, looking at Bai Shui Gui with eyes full of contempt and disdain. Bai Shui Gui sneered in his heart. This black bear ghost was indeed all brawn and no brains. Now that he looked down on Zhuowen, he would have to suffer in a while. Although black bear ghost was much stronger than him, he did not think that black bear ghost would be a match for Zhuowen. Once Zhuowen went crazy, black bear ghost would be dead without a doubt. Black bear ghost naturally noticed Bai Shui Gui's sneering expression and was very unhappy. Chapter 4053. Boom. With a thunderous sound, Black bear ghost's big hand landed in front of White water ghost in the blink of an eye. White water ghost's expression was ugly, but he didn't back down. With a shrill howl, a pale white mist burst out of his body. With the help of the strange white mist, White water ghost's aura skyrocketed. Then, White water ghost's right claw struck out. Bang! The two collided. Yin Qi rolled, and the surrounding temperature dropped. Black frost formed on the ground. Poochie. White water ghost's expression changed. With a muffled groan, he couldn't help but retreat. White water ghost, with your strength, you want to fight with me? You overestimate yourself. Black bear ghost sat on the seat made of evil spirits and looked at White water ghost with disdain. White water ghost was furious. He wanted to charge at Black bear ghost again, but a hand landed on his shoulder. White water ghost looked over and saw that the owner of the hand was Zhuowen. He quickly said in shame, "Sir, I'm not skilled enough, it's fine." Zhuowen waved his hand. Then, he looked at Black bear ghost coldly and said, "You're called Black bear ghost, right? If you kneel down and kowtow to me now, I might let you die a quick death." Black bear ghost was stunned. He looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at an idiot. Then, he laughed out loud. His laughter was very wild. "Kowtow and apologize. Let me die a quick death. Are you sure there's nothing wrong with your head?" Black bear ghost sneered. "There's a limit to my patience. Get over here and kowtow to me," Zhuowen said impatiently. Black bear ghost's eyes turned extremely cold. There was even a strong killing intent. "Reckless human. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish." With that, Black bear ghost's right hand formed a palm. He reached out and pressed down on Zhuowen's head. Boom, boom, boom. Black mist lingered above Zhuowen's head. It condensed into a huge black palm and slammed down. White water ghost's expression changed. Black bear ghost's attack was much stronger than before. However, he quickly recalled Zhuowen's terrifying exorcism powers, and his expression returned to normal. Zhuowen fiercely stomped his right foot, and his entire body shot out like a bolt of lightning. Rumble. His speed was too fast. When the black palm came crashing down, he was already in front of the black bear ghost. Then, like a python coming out of its hole, his hand quickly grabbed the black bear ghost's neck. Only then did the black bear ghost react. His hands kept waving, and rolling black fog surged out of his body, turning into the sharpest hidden weapon in the world, shooting towards Zhuowen. Unfortunately, when these hidden weapons were an inch away from Zhuowen, they were blocked by a shield of purple gold energy. "You dare to show off in front of me with this little bit of strength?" Zhuowen grabbed Black bear ghost's neck and lifted him up as he sneered. Black bear ghost's eyes were filled with fear. He had never expected this human cultivator to be so powerful. Especially the exorcism powers on this person's body, which completely restrained him, making him unable to use any of his strength. Black Bear Ghost, I said you can't afford to offend this lord. White Water Ghost stood to the side and gloated. My lord, I was wrong. Please spare my life, Black Bear Ghost said in a trembling voice. You have no value to me at all. You'd better become my nourishment. As Zhuowen spoke, the purple gold energy in his hand suddenly surged out, drilling into Black Bear Ghost's body. Ah! Black Bear Ghost let out a shrill cry. His body became dimmer, and finally disappeared, turning into a stream of energy that entered Zhuowen's body. Ghosts are indeed much better than evil spirits. They actually contain such pure energy. Zhuowen nodded his head in satisfaction. Compared to evil spirits, the amount of energy that ghost spirits could bring him was much greater. He had a premonition that if he could refine enough ghosts in this Ghost King Ridge, he might be able to break through again. White Water Ghost, who had seen this scene clearly, was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. In his eyes, Zhuowen had directly eaten Black Bear Ghost. This was really too terrifying. If I hadn't agreed to take him to the place of imprisonment, I might have ended up like Black Bear Ghost. White Water Ghost thought to himself. His respect for Zhuowen grew. White Water Ghost, there should be a lot of ghosts in Ghost King Ridge, right? Zhuowen looked at White Water Ghost with bright eyes. White Water Ghost's face turned pale. He had already realized the purpose of Zhuowen's question. He braced himself and nodded. On the way to the place of imprisonment, take me to the territories of the ghosts along the way, Zhuowen said casually. White Water Ghost smiled bitterly. In the end, he could only nod in agreement. The place of imprisonment was located in the deepest part of Ghost King Ridge. It was said that it was not far from the place where the Ghost King was sealed. White Water Ghost was very dutiful. On the way, he brought Zhuowen to the territories of the other ghosts. Wherever the two of them went, the ghosts would basically suffer. In the end, they all became Zhuowen's nourishment. After devouring dozens of powerful ghosts, Zhuowen's cultivation finally had a breakthrough. He successfully reached the peak of the demonic transformation. Zhuowen's eyes were full of excitement. Now, even if he had only broken through a small realm, the increase in his strength was extremely obvious. It could be said that it was an exponential increase. My lord, after passing this high slope, we will reach the place of imprisonment. The two of them came to the back of a high slope. White Water Ghost stopped and said to Zhuowen. Tell me the specific strength of this Ghost King, Zhuowen said in a low voice. White Water Ghost's eyes were filled with fear. He trembled as he said, before Lord Ghost King was sealed, he was already a supreme expert who was at large. Although the place of imprisonment is only guarded by a part of Lord Ghost King's power, that power is at least the strength of the ancient star transformation. Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect the Ghost King to be so strong. Before he was sealed, he was already in the Great Carefree Realm. Huxley Domain is only a middle-lower domain among the 100 domains. There are pitifully few Great Carefree Realm experts. How could this Huxley have the ability to seal the Ghost King? Zhuowen was puzzled. He was clear about the terror of a Great Carefree Realm expert. Given Huxley's foundation, it should not have reached the level where he could seal such a powerful existence. My lord, you may not know. Huxley was one of the most powerful clans millions of years ago. At that time, Huxley was enough to rank in the top 15 of the 100 domains. He had more than 10 Great Carefree Realm experts. And Lord Ghost King was sealed in the Ghost King Ridge during Huxley's most powerful period. White Water Ghost slowly recounted the secret of the past. Zhuowen showed a look of understanding. Chapter 4054. Continue leading the way. Zhuowen said calmly. Sir, once we reach the prison, I will definitely be treated as a traitor by the Ghost King. And there will be no place for me in the Ghost King Ridge. Sir, can you take me away from the Ghost King Ridge? White Water Ghost looked at Zhuowen with hope in his eyes. Are you trying to bargain with me? Zhuowen looked coldly at White Water Ghost. White Water Ghost hurriedly knelt and begged for mercy, hoping that Zhuowen would forgive him. Do your job well. If I'm satisfied, I'll consider it, Zhuowen said. Whitewater Ghost was overjoyed and hurriedly thanked him. Then, the two of them crossed the slope. Behind the high slope, there was a vast expanse of wilderness. Rolling black fog gathered in the wilderness, and unsettling howls could be heard from within the black fog. At the end of the wilderness, Zhuowen could faintly see a tall black tower. There are so many ghosts. Looking at the rolling black fog in the wilderness, Zhuowen's eyes shone with greed. As for Whitewater Ghost, he silently mourned for the group of ghosts in the wilderness. He knew very well that these ghosts would soon become nourishment for Zhuowen's cultivation. Let's go. Zhuowen slowly walked down the slope, and the purple gold energy around him burst forth without concealing it. A human cultivator? How dare he come to the prison? Isn't he courting death? Isn't this perfect? We haven't tasted human flesh in a long time. Now is the perfect time. Don't even think about taking him from me. This human cultivator is mine. The moment Zhuowen walked down the slope, the ghosts below all became restless. Then, the black fog rolled like a long dragon and rushed toward Zhuowen. Every ghost had an evil glint in their eyes, as if they were about to devour a person. They instantly enveloped Zhuowen's frail figure. Whitewater Ghost stood on the slope and looked worriedly at Zhuowen, who was being engulfed by the black fog. There were too many ghosts in the prison. There were close to 100 of them. Although Zhuowen was powerful, he was worried that Zhuowen would not be able to deal with so many ghosts at once. Soon, the Whitewater Ghost was shocked to find that the black fog in front of it had been dispersed by a mysterious force. Then, the 100 or so ghosts seemed to have stopped in midair. Upon closer inspection, the Whitewater Ghost discovered that Zhuowen's surroundings were filled with ripples that resembled water. Zhuowen, who was in the middle of the group of ghosts, formed a seal with his hands. Strange ripples appeared out of nowhere from his hands and condensed in midair. Could it be Array Dao? My lord is also a divine array master. Whitewater Ghost's eyes were filled with shock as he muttered to himself. The corners of Zhuowen's mouth curled into an almost imperceptible smile. Before the group of ghosts engulfed him, he had already prepared a great array. The array he used was a type of trapping formation. It was a peak heaven-breaching Tier 9 formation. It was more than enough to trap these ghosts. Zhuowen strolled through the group of ghosts. With every step he took, rays of purplish gold energy would surge out of his body. The rays of purplish gold energy were as dense as raindrops as they merged into the bodies of the ghosts. Then, the ghosts were refined into streams of pure energy, which was fed back to Zhuowen. Whitewater Ghost gasped. Zhuowen's techniques were far too strange and varied. They were impossible to guard against. After Zhuowen dealt with all the ghosts in the field that had been shrouded in black fog seemed to have cleared up a lot. At the end of the field, the towering tower became much clearer than before. Zhuowen could even see the thick and pitch-black chains that surrounded the tower. The walls of the tower were covered in black patterns. My lord, this is the prison. The person Lu Renjue wants to imprison is in this tower. Soon, the two of them arrived in front of the tower. Whitewater Ghost said in a low voice. Human, you're quite bold. You actually dared to barge into my forbidden grounds and kill so many of my descendants. A furious and dignified voice rang out from the tower. The black chains wrapped around the surface of the tower lit up with a strange black light. Accompanying the black light was an extremely powerful pressure and aura. Thump. Whitewater Ghost's face paled. He suddenly knelt on the ground. Lord Ghost King, clang, clang, clang. The black chains on the tower suddenly melted. A pitch-black and viscous liquid dripped from the tower. The black liquid continued to condense. Finally, it formed a tall and mighty figure. This figure was covered in black armor. Black spikes protruded from the surface of the armor. This figure was more than 10 meters tall. The face behind the helmet was pitch black. It was impossible to see his features clearly. The only thing that stood out was the pair of eyes that flashed with red light. He was the Ghost King's incarnation. At the same time, when the Ghost King's incarnation appeared, 3 figures appeared on the other side of the hill. These 3 figures were 2 women and a man. They were Fu Ming, Lung Feifei, and Jian Wuqing, who were searching for the Ghost King's seal. What a powerful ghost aura. Look, could that be the Ghost King? Fu Ming's expression changed slightly. He hurriedly climbed up the hill and looked at the end of the field. He saw the tall Ghost King's incarnation standing in front of the tower. We've encountered so many ghosts along the way, but none of them have a ghost aura that can compare to this. Perhaps the two of them are not even on the same level, Lung Feifei said calmly. That means that the guy below the tower should be the Ghost King? But isn't the Ghost King sealed? Jian Wuqing asked doubtfully. That should be the Ghost King's incarnation. The real Ghost King should still be sealed, Fu Ming said in a low voice. It's just an incarnation, but it has such a powerful aura and pressure. Just how powerful is this Ghost King? Lung Feifei said in surprise. Master once said that the Ghost King is the strongest in the Great Carefree Realm. Its strength is comparable to the Realm Guardians where you are, Fu Ming said, licking his lips. Since the Ghost King's incarnation is here, then the seal should not be far from here, Jian Wuqing said. Yes, let's look around nearby. Of course, the best way is to cooperate with the Ghost King's incarnation. This is the fastest way, Fu Ming said. No, my master reminded me that the Ghost King is very cunning. Unless it's absolutely necessary, it's best not to come into contact with the Ghost King, Lung Feifei said. Jian Wuqing also nodded. Her master had also reminded her before. Fu Ming frowned but did not object. Hey! Look, there seems to be a human cultivator there. Suddenly, Jian Wuqing exclaimed in a low voice, pointing at Zhuowen not far away. Chapter 40-55. Who's this guy? Fu Ming looked at Zhuowen's figure and frowned slightly. Jian Wuqing and Lung Feifei looked puzzled. They did not know Zhuowen at all. At this moment, Zhuowen and the Ghost King's incarnation were still confronting each other at the foot of the tower. Puny human, why aren't you coming over to die? The Ghost King's scarlet eyes looked down at Zhuowen coldly. The Ghost King was naturally furious that Zhuowen had killed the group of ghosts in the prison. However, he naturally had his own dignity. In his opinion, Zhuowen was too puny and was not worthy of him taking action. The white water ghost was so scared that he trembled at the side, not daring to say a word. Zhuowen looked coldly at the Ghost King's incarnation and said indifferently, I didn't come to the prison to be your enemy. I only have one goal, and that is the people imprisoned in the tower. As long as you hand over the people in the tower to me, I won't attack you. The Ghost King was stunned. He looked at Zhuowen as if he was looking at an idiot. Puny human, are you joking? Won't attack me? In my eyes, you're just a puny ant. It's as easy as flipping my hand for me to crush you to death. You actually said that you won't attack me. What a joke. The Ghost King laughed loudly, but the coldness in his eyes became more intense. He was the Ghost King and had roamed the 100 domains outside the realm for countless years. Countless cultivators had paled at the mention of his name. Even most of the cultivators who entered the Ghost King Ridge did not dare to approach this forbidden area. Now, a mere human cultivator dared to be so arrogant and impudent in front of him. He did not put him in his eyes at all. Ghost King, you're indeed very powerful. If your original body appeared, I might not be your match. However, it's just an incarnation. You're not my match. Don't waste time. Release the people imprisoned in the tower, otherwise, you might not be able to keep this incarnation of yours. Zhuowen was rather impatient as he waved his hand. Despicable ant, you've completely angered me. This king was benevolent and wanted to give you a chance to commit suicide. Now it seems that you don't understand Benwang's benevolence at all. Since that's the case, Benwang will personally take action and let you taste true fear. Taste. The Ghost King's spine suddenly straightened. His several jong tall body was much taller than Zhuowen. The pitch-black armor covered in spikes was burning with pitch-black flames. The strange thing was that the temperature of the flames was extremely low. It was like frost, making people feel a chill down their backs. The Ghost King grasped at the air with his right hand, and scorching black flames erupted, materializing into a gigantic black saber that was as tall as a man. The Ghost King is angry. My lord, run. Lord Ghost King is an invincible existence. You are no match for him. The white water ghost was so frightened that his words were stammering. After he finished speaking, he took to his heels and ran away from the tower. His speed was simply breathtaking. Zhuowen had no time to pay attention to the white water ghost. He looked at the Ghost King in front of him with a serious gaze. The Ghost King's strength was truly terrifying. It was far stronger than any other ghost he had ever encountered. And this was only the Ghost King's incarnation. If it were the Ghost King's true body, Zhuowen would not have needed to fight. He could have just fled. Human, your courage is commendable. You can actually remain so calm in the face of this king's aura. In order to reward you, I will be merciful and let you die under my saber. The Ghost King grinned and suddenly took a step forward with his right foot. Like a bolt of black lightning, he charged at Zhuowen. Thump, thump, thump. The Ghost King's strength was simply too great. Every step he took caused the earth to tremble. And wherever the Ghost King's feet stepped, the ground would ignite with surging black flames, cold and sinister. So fast. Zhuowen was alarmed. The Ghost King was so fast that he could barely make out its blurry trajectory. Boom. Before Zhuowen could regain his senses, the Ghost King had already appeared in front of Zhuowen. The Ghost King's right hand held a black saber and slashed at Zhuowen's neck. Black flames followed the saber's trajectory like unbridled pythons. They shot out and coiled around Zhuowen's limbs and bones. Zhuowen coldly snorted and did not dare to hold back. Vast amounts of grand mist god force surged out of his body like a vast river, turning into waves of purple-gold energy that surrounded his body. The black flames were easily neutralized by the vast amounts of grand mist god force. But Zhuowen knew that the Ghost King's true killing move was the black saber behind the black flames. Swoosh! A pitch-black saber light silently flew over and locked onto Zhuowen's neck, a vital point. If this saber hit, Zhuowen's head would fall to the ground. Zhuowen's gaze was extremely calm. He had already prepared himself and took out the purple-gold divine sword. A line of heaven and earth primordial chaos. Zhuowen held the purple-gold divine sword and slashed out with his right hand. The sword drew an arc in front of him and a dazzling purple-gold light burst out and rushed into the sky. Bang! The saber and sword collided fiercely, stirring up terrifying saber light and sword shadows. With the two of them as the center, purple gold and black energy rapidly spread in all directions in a ring. Hey! Look, that guy is actually fighting with the Ghost King. On the distant slope, Lung Feifei suddenly exclaimed. Fu Ming and Jian Wuqing both looked in the direction of the tower. They saw the Ghost King swinging his saber at Zhuowen. At the same time, Zhuowen also slashed out with his sword. The saber and sword collided, and the terrifying energy ripples burst out and spread to the side of the slope in an instant. The entire slope could not withstand the impact of the terrifying energy ripples and was directly disintegrated into fine rocks. On the other hand, Fu Ming, Lung Feifei, and Jian Wuqing immediately retreated. As they retreated, they channeled the divine power in their bodies to form a protective shield around their bodies to resist the terrifying energy ripples. This Ghost King is so terrifying. Just one move and it has such terrifying power, Fu Ming said in horror. Jian Wuqing and Lung Feifei also revealed looks of horror. Moreover, they knew that this was only the Ghost King's incarnation. If the Ghost King's real body was here, the blow just now would be even more terrifying. Even if the three of them were far away, they would probably be seriously injured by the aftershock. We can't be careless. After all, this Ghost King is a supreme expert of the great carefree realm like the Domain Guardian. This kind of expert is not something we can imagine, Jian Wuqing said in a low voice. Fu Ming and Lung Feifei both nodded in agreement. If they were still in a relaxed mood at the beginning, they did not dare to relax at all now. Chapter 4056. Fu Ming and Jian Wuqing looked at each other. They didn't know Zhuowen either. It had to be known that their three domains were neighbors with Huxley Domain. When they went out to train, they would often meet each other. Therefore, they knew most of the young geniuses in Huxley. However, they were unfamiliar with Zhuowen. They didn't even know anything about him. Who cares who he is? He's already a dead man anyway. Fu Ming sneered. Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing also nodded in agreement. The Ghost King's strength was unfathomable. Even if it was an incarnation, it should have the strength of the ancient star transformation. This kind of strength was not something that they, the younger generation, could contend against. The three of them were the top geniuses of their respective clans. If they faced the Ghost King's incarnation alone, they didn't think that they would be a match for it. If the three of them joined forces, they might be able to tangle with the Ghost King's incarnation for a while. However, it was basically impossible to win. The aftermath of the energy came and went quickly. After the three of them retreated far enough, they barely managed to resist the aftermath of the energy. After that, the three of them once again looked at the vast plain below the tower in the distance. They were surprised to see that the Ghost King, who had a monstrous aura, retreated step by step. In the end, its huge body crashed fiercely into the rock wall behind it and was embedded in it. And Zhuowen, who they thought should have died, was still standing in the same place. He held the purple gold sword in his right hand and was as immovable as a mountain. What's going on? The three of them were dumbfounded. They wondered if there was something wrong with their eyes. The powerful incarnation of the Ghost King had actually fallen into a disadvantage after the attack just now. Bang! A huge figure suddenly walked out from the rock wall. The Ghost King was in a sorry state. Its scarlet eyes looked coldly at Zhuowen, and its expression became extremely fearful. What a powerful exorcism power! The Ghost King frowned slightly and couldn't help but look at the black broadsword in its right hand. The black flames covering the surface of the black broadsword became very weak, and the huge broadsword became dim and lightless. Just now, the moment he came into contact with Zhuowen, the purple gold energy in Zhuowen's body was like a maggot attached to his black saber, rapidly refining it. Moreover, this energy was still spreading around him, refining his body. This exorcism power was completely different from what he had seen before. This fear of the unknown made the Ghost King very angry. As expected of the Ghost King, to be able to withstand the refining characteristics of my vast grand mist divine power. Zhuowen stood in place. He looked at the Ghost King, who was in a rather sorry state, raised his eyebrows, and lightly praised. Just as the Ghost King had guessed, his exorcism power was very different from ordinary exorcism powers. He was even more terrifying than the cultivators of the Exorcist clan. He was the nemesis and natural enemy of evil spirits and ghosts. The evil spirits and ghosts that encountered him were basically unable to resist his exorcism power and eventually became his nourishment. The Ghost King's strength was indeed powerful, but in essence, he was also a kind of ghost. Zhuowen naturally had an innate suppression on the Ghost King. Of course, if the Ghost King's original body was here, even if Zhuowen had this kind of advantage, it would still be unable to make up for the huge gap in strength between the two. The Ghost King's face became very gloomy. In the exchange just now, he could see that the human cultivator in front of him was not weaker than his incarnation. Coupled with the strange exorcism power on this person's body, if he continued to fight with this person, he would definitely lose. Human, I take back my words just now. You have proven yourself. You have the qualifications to talk to me as an equal, the Ghost King said in a deep voice. Zhuowen's mouth revealed a playful smile. He coldly looked at the Ghost King, not saying a word. The Ghost King frowned and continued, I don't know why you insist on saving that person in the tower, but I can remind you, this is the person that Huxley clan leader Lu Renjue personally imprisoned. Once you bring this person out of the Ghost King Ridge, Lu Renjue will immediately know, and you will be exposed, and at that time, you will have to face the entire Huxley's attack. You mean, you don't intend to back down? Zhuowen asked indifferently. The Ghost King frowned, and said, Human, leave. I can forgive your rudeness to me. Leave. Today, if I don't bring out the person imprisoned in the tower, I won't leave. And you will die here. Zhuowen's right foot stomped on the ground, and the whole ground shook, and he was like a bolt of lightning that charged forward, disappearing on the spot. Human, don't you go too far. The Ghost King was furious. Holding a large black saber in his hand, he also rushed up. The two of them once again engaged in a fierce battle, the light of the saber and the shadow of the sword intertwined in the sky above the wilderness, looking very dazzling. And the three people who were originally peeping on the high slope were dumbfounded, their hearts filled with fear. Huxley hid it really well, to think that there was such a genius. I always thought that Huxley's strongest genius was Lei Ling. But this person is much stronger than Lei Ling, Fu Ming said with a gloomy expression. Fortunately, when we were in the Ghost King Ridge, we didn't meet this person first. Otherwise, our situation would be really bad, Lung Feifei said with lingering fear. Now is not the time to watch the show. We have to find the Ghost King's sealed place as soon as possible. If this person finds the three of us when he's free, then we'll be in trouble, Jian Wuqing said extremely calmly. Only then did Fu Ming and Lung Feifei come back to their senses. They had not come here to watch the battle between Zhuowen and the Ghost King, but to understand the Ghost King's true body. Let's go. Let's look around. Since the Ghost King's incarnation is here, then his true body shouldn't be too far away, Fu Ming said decisively. Thus, the three of them immediately concealed their auras and split up to search for the Ghost King's sealed place. Once they found it, they would immediately send a message. And Zhuowen and the Ghost King, who were originally fighting, did not discover Fu Ming and the other two. Bang! 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 Zhuowen held the purple-gold divine sword in his right hand, sword chi surged around his body. He slashed out sword after sword, his aura constantly rising. On the other hand, although the Ghost King blocked Zhuowen's divine sword attack, his aura became more and more dispirited. The Ghost King's heart was filled with bitterness. Zhuowen's vast grand mist divine power was too strange. It was like worms crawling all over his body, constantly refining his body. Moreover, the refined energy continuously poured into Zhuowen's body, causing the latter's aura to become stronger and stronger. The Ghost King knew that the situation was hopeless. If he continued to fight, he would be finished in the end. Human, just you wait. I will definitely take revenge for this. The Ghost King roared and threw the large saber in his right hand. The moment the large saber was thrown, it turned into a sea of black flames and instantly drowned Zhuowen. At the same time, the Ghost King turned into a cloud of black fog and fled into the distance. Ghost King, you have already entered my cage. You can no longer escape. Chapter 4057. Bang! The Ghost King groaned as he kept retreating in the void. His face suddenly became extremely gloomy. He said in shock and anger, "You're actually a heaven-breaking level 9 divine array master. When you were fighting with me just now, you were still setting up array patterns around me. Ghost King, welcome to the cage I weaved for you. I wonder if you're satisfied with this cage?" An indifferent voice slowly came from behind. From the sea of black flames, a slender figure slowly walked out. The strange black fire swept over and appeared on his body, but it couldn't cause any harm to him. "You're in the way, get lost." Zhuowen walked out of the sea of fire and waved his right hand. The purple-gold divine sword erupted with blazing purple-gold sword chi. Rumble. The sword chi swept out, and the huge sea of black fire was completely annihilated by the sword chi. The surrounding space was even blasted into a terrifying black hole. The Ghost King was shocked. Rolling black gas gushed out of his body like a protective armor, barely helping him resist the surrounding purple-gold sword chi. "Human. You and I have no enmity. You came to the place of imprisonment just to save the people imprisoned in the tower. Since that's the case, you don't have to kill me at all. Let me go, and you can save the people in the tower." The Ghost King frowned slightly and suggested to Zhuowen in a low voice. The human in front of him was a monster. He had completely accepted his fate and showed the attitude of a defeated person. "Those who go against me can only atone for their sins with death." A purple-gold light flashed in Zhuowen's eyes, and a strong killing intent swept out like a hurricane. At this moment, Zhuowen stepped out of the void and stepped on the purple-gold sword chi as if he was walking on flat ground. He quickly flew toward the Ghost King. "It's not that easy to kill me." The Ghost King's face was ugly. He was going all out, knowing that he could only fight to the death today. Bang! 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 The moment the two figures crossed each other, there were 3 sounds of swords and sabers clashing. Each sound was louder than the last. It was like a sudden clap of thunder on the ground. Crack! A crisp shattering sound rang out. The Ghost King's pupils shrank to the size of needles. The broadsword in his hand shattered, turning into countless black weapon fragments. At the same time, dense black cracks appeared on the black armor covering the Ghost King's body. In the end, the armor crumbled into dust. Zhuowen slowly turned around and silently looked at the true face of the Ghost King in front of him. After the black armor shattered, what appeared in front of him was a human-shaped black flame. On the left side of the flaming figure's chest, there was a beating heart. "Is this your true face?" Zhuowen said expressionlessly as he looked coldly at the Ghost King kneeling on the ground. Damn it, damn it." The Ghost King clutched his chest and glared at Zhuowen with a venomous look, as if he wanted to skin Zhuowen alive. "Have you seen enough? If you've seen enough, I'll send you to hell right now." Only then did the Ghost King realize that Zhuowen was no longer there. Splat! Before the Ghost King could react, the purple-gold divine sword pierced through his back and came out from his chest. "You!" The Ghost King turned his head with difficulty and glared at Zhuowen with rage. He had actually lost, and to a mere human cultivator in the fiend god transformation stage. This was the greatest humiliation of his life. "Human, you'll regret this. If this Ghost King ever escapes, it will be the day of your death." The Ghost King's venomous howls soared into the sky and spread throughout the entire prison. "Refine." Zhuowen only looked indifferently at the wailing Ghost King avatar. The purple-gold energy flowed through the purple-gold divine sword and into the Ghost King's limbs and bones. "Ah!" the Ghost King screamed. He felt as if his body was being burned by a ball of fire, scorching and painful. Then, he saw with his own eyes that his body was disintegrating. His limbs were melting and his blood was evaporating. At this moment, the Ghost King's eyes finally revealed a look of terror. This feeling of being refined alive was an unprecedented pain. It took a total of 6 hours to refine the Ghost King. The Ghost King's blood-curdling screams reverberated throughout the space. Finally, his voice was so weak that it was almost inaudible. Waves of pure energy surged into Zhuowen's limbs and bones like a storm. Zhuowen only felt a warm feeling throughout his body. He could clearly feel that his cultivation level and aura were rapidly increasing. "This feeling is simply too wonderful." Zhuowen squinted his eyes and sighed softly. The energy that the Ghost King contained was simply too pure. It was more than 10 times stronger than the energy that he had absorbed from all the ghosts in the Ghost King Ridge combined. As the Ghost King's incarnation's energy was too great, it would take Zhuowen a very long time to absorb it all. Zhuowen only wanted to save Shan Lingyun now. He planned to cultivate later. Zhuowen pinched the air with his right hand. Instantly, the Ghost King's surging energy condensed in his palm. Finally, it turned into an irregular black crystal. After keeping the black crystal, Zhuowen landed on the ground. His gaze landed on the tall tower in front of him. "Master, I'm here to save you." Zhuowen suppressed the excitement in his heart and strode towards the tall tower. The surface of the tall tower was densely covered with many powerful array Dao restrictions. However, to Zhuowen, these array Dao restrictions were nothing. With a rip of his right hand, the restrictions on the surface of the tall tower were torn apart by him. When Zhuowen tore apart the restrictions on the surface of the tall tower and entered the tower, Fu Ming and the other 2 had already found the place where the Ghost King was sealed. In a black swamp tens of thousands of feet away from the tall tower, there was a lingering poisonous gas that could not be removed all year round. At this moment, Fu Ming, Jian Wuqing, and Leng Feifei were gathered in the middle of the black swamp. There was an inconspicuous small temple standing there. This small temple was about the height of a person. It was made of cobblestones of different sizes. In this inconspicuous small temple, there was a ferocious-looking statue of a ghost god enshrined. What was even more strange was that this ghost god statue was very similar to the Ghost King's incarnation under the tall tower. Fu Ming and the other 2 silently looked at the ghost god statue in the small temple. Their expressions became very solemn. "The poisonous gas here is too strong. It's not something we can resist. We can't stay here for long." Jen Wuqing's beautiful brows furrowed. The sword aura around her spread like fog and surrounded her. Even so, Jen Wuqing could only resist the poisonous gas in the swamp. Not only Jen Wuqing, but Fu Ming and Lung Feifei also used all their strength to resist the poisonous gas. However, it was still rather difficult. If our master's information is correct, this should be the place where the Ghost King is sealed. Let's take that thing out and try. Chapter 4058. Fu Ming was also rather nervous. He looked at the two women and said, "Wuqing, Feifei, have you prepared the temporary teleportation array on you? If there's a situation, remember to use the temporary teleportation array immediately." Jen Wuqing and Lung Feifei hurriedly nodded. Suddenly, a shrill scream sounded from afar, scaring Fu Ming so much that he almost lost his grip on the bead in his hand. Hey! This scream sounds like the Ghost King's incarnation. Could it be that there's something wrong with the Ghost King's incarnation? Lung Feifei asked in surprise. Could it be that that fellow defeated the Ghost King's incarnation? Jen Wuqing said in a low voice. Fu Ming frowned and said in a low voice, "That's impossible. No matter how weak the Ghost King's incarnation is, it's still an ancient star transformation expert. That fellow is indeed powerful, but it's not enough to defeat the Ghost King. At most, he has the upper hand." Although Jen Wuqing and Lung Feifei felt uneasy, they agreed with Fu Ming's point of view. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, poisonous gas swept up like a hurricane above the originally calm swamp. And the small temple standing in the middle of the swamp surged with a terrifying aura and pressure like a tide. The eyes of the ghost god statue in the small temple emitted a terrifying scarlet light. "Damned human! Bastard human! How dare you kill this king's incarnation? If this king succeeds in escaping, I will definitely make you die without a burial ground." A terrifying and dignified voice came from the ghost god statue. Fu Ming, Jen Wuqing, and Lung Feifei watched this scene in horror. They hurriedly retreated, leaving the small temple. They naturally knew that the owner of this voice was the Ghost King. At the same time, they were shocked by the Ghost King's words. They did not expect that not only would the Ghost King's incarnation be defeated, but it would also be killed by Zhuoan. This was too unbelievable. Who is that fellow? Is he really so strong? Fu Ming and the other two had the same thought. The Ghost King's voice was filled with exasperation. After a round of scolding, he finally calmed down and looked at Fu Ming and the other two with his scarlet eyes. "Who are you? Why have you come to this king's sealed place?" The Ghost King's tone was unfriendly as he looked at Fu Ming and the other two coldly. If his clone had not been killed by Zhuo Wen, given his current furious state, he would definitely attack Fu Ming and the other two to vent the hatred in his heart. Fu Ming hurriedly said, "Senior Ghost King, don't misunderstand. The three of us have no ill intentions. This time, we are here to help you break the seal." The Ghost King was stunned. He looked at the three people in surprise and sneered, "Help me break the seal? You have the nerve to say that my seal was created by your ancestor, Huxley. You're Huxley's juniors. How can you have a way to break the seal for me? Do you think I'll believe that?" Fu Ming, on the other hand, was not angry. He said calmly, "Senior Ghost King might have misunderstood us. We are not Huxley's men, but from other clans. The reason why I helped Senior break the seal is to cooperate with Senior." The Ghost King was silent for a while before he sneered. "Your goal is to kill with a borrowed knife, right? You want to use me as a knife to deal with Huxley for you." Fu Ming smiled and said, "Senior is scheming and astute. Our little scheme naturally can't escape your eyes, but our cooperation is a win-win situation. Are you going to refuse?" With that, Fu Ming remained standing on the spot with a smile on his face. He knew that the Ghost King was a smart person and would never refuse to cooperate with them. Moreover, the Ghost King had a deep hatred for Huxley. Even if they did not ask the Ghost King for help, after breaking the seal, the Ghost King would find Huxley to settle the score. This was something that the Ghost King would definitely do. Even if the Ghost King knew that they were using him, he would still not reject them. Hee. The seal on this king's body was sealed by a reclusive ancestor of Huxley. Moreover, The generations of clan leaders would strengthen the seal on this king. Do you think you three brats can break the seal on this king? The Ghost King sneered. Fu Ming smiled. Fu Ming smiled. He knew that the Ghost King was tempted. He raised his right hand and showed the black gold bead in his hand. He smiled and said, "This is the origin word-breaking bead. It can break all seals. It can even break the seal on your body. It just might take some time." The Ghost King stared at the word-breaking bead in Fu Ming's hand with bright eyes, a sharp glint in them. He had naturally heard of this bead before. It was extremely rare and there was only one in the world. It could break all seals and restrictions. Of course, the stronger the seal and restriction, the longer the bead would take to break it. For example, the Ghost King's seal was too strong. Even with the help of this bead, it would take at least half a month. "Tell me, what do you need this king to do?" The Ghost King said calmly. "It's very simple. Join forces with our three clans to deal with Huxley and exterminate his clan." Fu Ming smiled sinisterly. The Ghost King nodded. He was not surprised by Fu Ming's request. "I agree to this request. Give me the origin word-breaking bead." However, Fu Ming shook his head and said with a smile, "Senior Ghost King, you and I are not fools. The credibility of a verbal agreement is not enough. You have to sign a soul contract with our three clans." With that, Fu Ming tapped his glabella with his right hand. A blazing golden light surged out from his glabella. The powerful soul power interweaved into an illusory golden contract in the air. Upon closer inspection, one could see densely packed golden words on the golden contract. On the golden contract, the souls of the three clan leaders have already left their respective marks. Only you, Senior Ghost King, are left. As Fu Ming spoke, he pointed at the Ghost King's temple with his right hand. The golden contract landed lightly in the temple. After reading it, the Ghost King was silent for a long time. "Aren't you three clans a little too much? Not only do you want this king to help you deal with Huxley, but I also have to serve your three clans for 1,000 years. Do you really think this king is easy to bully?" the Ghost King said angrily. Fu Ming, on the other hand, was calm and composed. He smiled faintly and said, "Senior Ghost King, you can choose not to accept it, and in return, we naturally won't give you the origin word-breaking bead." The Ghost King's expression was extremely ugly as he said coldly, "Are you threatening me?" Fu Ming hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Senior Ghost King, please calm down. How would this junior dare to threaten you? This is the idea of the three great clans' patriarchs, and we are just following their instructions. If Senior Ghost King can't accept it, this junior won't force it." The Ghost King fell silent again. This time, it was a long silence. Fu Ming and the other two were also very patient. They stood there silently waiting for the Ghost King's reply. About an hour later, the Ghost King, who had been silent, finally spoke again. Chapter 4059. Swoosh. The soul contract turned into a golden light and flew out of the small temple. It appeared in front of Fu Ming and the other two and revealed a golden piece of paper. Fu Ming held the soul contract in his right hand and looked down at the bottom right corner of the contract. There was indeed a pitch-black mark there. If one looked carefully, the shape of this pitch-black mark was actually the head of the ghost god in the small temple. "Thank you for your hard work, Senior Ghost King." Fu Ming nodded in satisfaction and then kept the soul contract back into his soul. "Now, you can hand over the origin word-breaker bead to this king." The Ghost King's sinister voice sounded. "Of course." Fu Ming cupped his hands towards the small temple like a gentleman and then placed the black gold bead in his hand beside the ghost god statue. Fu Ming and the other two could clearly see strange pitch-black tentacles surging out of the ghost god statue and wrapping around the black gold bead. "Senior Ghost King, after you break out of the seal, our three great clans look forward to working with you. We won't disturb Senior anymore. Goodbye." After Fu Ming finished speaking, he led Lung Feifei and Jian Wuqing to look at the small temple warily and then slowly retreated. After they successfully left the swamp, the three of them were like birds startled by the twang of a bow. They quickly fled in the direction away from the swamp at an extremely fast speed. Not long after Fu Ming and the other two left, black fog rolled in the huge swamp, as if some powerful force was stirring up the black fog in the swamp. Jinshui clan, God's Eye, and Purple Mirage, you really set up a huge trap for me to fall into. After this king escapes, I will definitely not let you off easily. A sinister voice like that of an evil spirit came faintly from the depths of the swamp, revealing the anger in the Ghost King's heart. Tens of thousands of feet away, in the prison. After Zhuoan stepped into the tower, he realized that the inside of the tower was actually more dangerous than the outside. It was filled with layers of traps. Although he was vigilant, he still fell for it several times. Fortunately, he was strong, and his array formation skills were indeed superb. He resolved the many traps in the tower without any danger. The next floor is the top floor of the tower. Master should be imprisoned here. Zhuoan stopped at the bottom of a spiral staircase. He looked up at the bronze door at the end of the staircase, which was covered with complicated patterns. He could not hide the excitement in his eyes. As long as he could break open this bronze door, he would be able to save Shan Lingyun. His goal of sneaking into Huxley was finally about to be achieved. Zhuoan made a grabbing motion with his right hand and a beam of purplish gold light condensed in his palm, turning into a purplish gold sword. He then leapt into the air and appeared in front of the bronze door. Slash. With a slash of his sword, purplish gold sword rays seeped out like raindrops, densely packed and pouring down on the bronze door. Rumble. The moment the sword chi landed on the bronze door, there was a thunderous explosion. The sword chi, which was as dense as the stars, seemed to be endowed with intelligence. They scrambled to gather at the center of the bronze door. The bronze door was also quite extraordinary. The moment the sword chi hit it, the dense patterns on its surface lit up. What was more strange was that as the patterns became brighter, they actually left the bronze door and floated in midair. With lightning speed, they attacked the sword chi and resisted the attack of the sword chi. Hey! It actually blocked it. Zhuoan was shocked. He originally thought that one slash of his sword would be enough to break the bronze door. Now, it seemed that he had underestimated the bronze door. Looking at the weakening sword chi in front of the bronze door, Zhuoan's gaze became as sharp as a knife. He bent his right wrist and the divine power in his body gathered in the purplish gold divine sword in his palm. However, the moment his divine power gathered to the maximum, he slashed out with his right hand. The blade of the purplish gold divine sword sliced through the air and made a thunderous sound. Heaven and earth primordial one-line sky. Zhuoan used his swordsmanship. The power of this slash was much stronger than before. There was not too much sword chi in this slash. Instead, he gathered all his power into one streak of sword chi. Crack. This streak of sword chi seemed to be able to split the heavens and the earth. Its power was so great that the countless patterns surrounding the bronze door shattered like glass. Then, there was a continuous cracking sound. The remaining power of the sword chi broke through the patterns and shattered the bronze door. Countless bronze powder scattered on the stairs. The final obstacle of the last level of the tower was finally broken. Zhuoan was excited. He walked step by step to the last level of the tower. When he reached the highest level, he found that the space inside was not big. What he saw were densely packed black chains. These black chains were not real. They were formed by extremely corrosive ghost chi. The entire space was emitting a pungent stench. In the center, where the chains were the most densely packed, countless chains were entangled together to form an oval black cocoon-like object. Zhuoan's eyes were sharp. He immediately saw that there was an extremely powerful seal on the surface of the cocoon-like object. Zhuoan opened the heaven's eye between his eyebrows. He looked through the void and saw the scene at the core of the cocoon-like chains. Master. When he saw that a little girl was sealed in the core of the cocoon-like object, his eyes instantly turned red. He saw Shan Lingyun's petite body curled up in the center of the cocoon-like object. Her hands were hugging her knees. Although her eyes were open, they had lost the vigor that a living person should have. What made Zhuoan even angrier was that Shan Lingyun's limbs, shoulder blades, abdomen, and other body parts were all pierced through by the chains. Her blood had already dried and turned black. It coagulated at the wounds, like blooming black roses. Zhuowen closed the heaven's eye between his eyebrows. He took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the anger in his heart. Master, I will get you out of here immediately. Zhuowen calmed down. He stretched out his right hand and moved his fingertips, forming many complicated seals. Although the cocoon-like chain seal was powerful, it did not exceed heaven-breaking stage 9. With his half-step eternal level array Dao, it was not difficult to break this seal. Crack, crack, crack. In less than a moment, the cocoon-like chain's seal was broken. The entangled black chains collapsed and shattered into countless black fragments. Shan Lingyun, who was originally trapped in the chains, fell from midair to the ground. Zhuowen took a step forward. He stretched out his hands and hugged Shan Lingyun. The moment he released Shan Lingyun, a deep chill burst out from his eyes. Chapter 4060. Zhuowen recalled Shan Lingyun's innocent look when he first met her. It was a stark contrast to now. This contrast ignited the flames of fury in Zhuowen's heart. He checked Shan Lingyun's body and realized that her vitality was almost depleted. She was like a candle that was about to be extinguished. Although Shan Lingyun's eyes were open, her consciousness was in a mess. She was in a daze. He knew that Shan Lingyun did not have much lifespan left after performing the great language spiritual skill for him. But she still had 100 years of lifespan left. She would not end up like this. Given Shan Lingyun's current state, it would be a miracle if she could hold on for another half a year. Without a doubt, Shan Lingyun's lifespan was shortened so quickly because of the Ghost King Ridge and Lu Renjue. Zhuowen took out many top-notch divine herbs from the parallel dimension and used the divine fire to refine them into medicinal liquid. Then, he transferred the refined medicinal liquid into Shan Lingyun's body. Shan Lingyun's pale face started to become rosy under the effects of the medicine. Her complexion looked much better. The injuries on Shan Lingyun's body were also gradually recovering. For 3 days and 3 nights, Zhuowen stayed by Shan Lingyun's side and continuously refined the medicinal liquid to treat Shan Lingyun's injuries. He did not hesitate to use his own origin source energy to pass it to Shan Lingyun. Finally, Shan Lingyun, who was on the brink of death, recovered a little. Her weak aura also became stronger. Shan Lingyun's eyes were slightly closed, but she was still in a coma. Master's injuries and hidden illnesses have been cured, but the loss of lifespan. Zhuowen looked at Shan Lingyun sadly and muttered to himself. He could heal her injuries, but he could not recover the loss of lifespan. After leaving the Ghost King Ridge, I have to get the limitless longevity as soon as possible. Zhuowen frowned and was anxious. He could not wait to leave the Ghost King Ridge. Unfortunately, the time limit of the Ghost King Ridge was 1 month. He had to stay for 1 month before he could be transferred out of the Ghost King Ridge. And now, only half a month had passed. Zhuowen was helpless. He gently placed Shan Lingyun in the house at the central lake in the parallel dimension. Xiaohei, take good care of her for me. Zhuowen summoned Xiaohei, and only left the great world after exhorting her repeatedly. After doing this, Zhuowen left the place of imprisonment and headed for the periphery of Ghost King Ridge. Since there were still more than 10 days before the teleportation, he planned to stay in the periphery of the Ghost King Ridge during this time. After running for about half a day in the Ghost King Ridge, Zhuowen suddenly stopped on a huge black rock. At this moment, he sensed that the array disk he had given to Sam-I had been activated. Looks like junior sister Sam-I is in danger. Zhuowen frowned. With Sam-I's strength, it would be difficult for her to encounter any life or death crisis if she stayed in the periphery of the Ghost King Ridge. But now, Sam-I had activated his disk array. Clearly, the former had encountered a huge crisis that was difficult to resolve. He then checked the communication jade talisman at his waist. He didn't receive any news from Sam-I. Since the disk array had been activated, and there was no distress signal, he could not help but think about it. There was only one possibility. Sami was in a much greater danger than he had imagined. She couldn't even send out a distress signal. Fortunately, Zhuowen had left a trick up his sleeve on the disk array, leaving a hidden temporary teleportation array on it. He took out an array flag and released it. A blazing white light gushed out of the array flag, drowning Zhuoan like a tide. In the periphery of the Ghost King Ridge, in a vast stone forest. In the stone forest, there were huge stone pillars that required 10 people to wrap their arms around them. The surface of these stone pillars was engraved with all kinds of ghosts and gods. The stone pillars as a whole gave people a sense of age and weight. In the ruins of a palace in the north of the stone forest, 3 people were gathered. With the 3 people as the center, there was a mysterious purple energy ripple within a radius of 10 feet. This energy ripple was a semicircle around the 3 people, which happened to include the ruins where the 3 people were. The 3 people were 2 women and a man. One of them was an elf woman with pointed ears, holding a palm-sized disc array in her hand. The source of the purple energy that formed the barrier was the disc array in the elf woman's hand. "Junior Samai, what should we do?" The man beside the elf woman asked with a pale face. The elf woman and the man were Samai and Tuor Sheng. After parting ways with Zhuowen, Samai met Tuor Sheng not long after. The 2 of them walked hand in hand. The other young woman was Fleeting Time, the disciple of Fire God King, one of the 9 kings of Hushu. Fire God King was ranked 3rd among the 9 kings of Hushu. As the disciple of Fire God King, Fleeting Time's strength was one of the best among the younger generation in Huxley, second only to Lei Ling and Bingyu. And now, Fleeting Time, who was ranked 3rd among the younger generation in Huxley, was in a very bad state. Her hair was disheveled, her clothes were ragged, and her face was as pale as snow. What was more terrifying was that black poisonous blood was flowing out of her orifices. She looked like a ferocious ghost. "Senior Tuor Sheng, I don't know what to do either. I've already sent messages to Senior Zhuoan many times, but he hasn't replied to me even once." Samai was at a loss. She held onto the disc array while using her divine energy to keep Fleeting Time alive. Tuor Sheng was doing the same. Fleeting Time was on the verge of death. If they did not do this, Fleeting Time would die immediately. "Yo, you've sent quite a lot of messages. There are dozens of them. Aren't you tired of it?" A mocking voice came from outside the array. Samai and Tuor Sheng looked over and saw a young man with an evil smile standing at the edge of the ruins. Other than the evil young man, there were 2 women standing in the distance. One of the women was not very pretty, but she had a heroic aura. She carried a divine sword on her back. Her eyes shone with a sharp sword light as she blinked. The other woman was very beautiful. She wore a white gauze dress. Her face was very pale and cold, and there was no expression on her face. The 3 of them were Fu Ming, Lung Feifei, and Jian Wuqing. After the 3 of them left the Ghost King's seal, they came to the outskirts of the Ghost King's Ridge and massacred everyone they met. Fleeting Time was very unlucky to have met the 3 of them. She fought with Fu Ming and lost miserably in one move. If she did not have a rare escape talisman, she would have died in Fu Ming's hands. Even so, she had been severely injured and had been poisoned by Fu Ming. In the process of escaping, she met Tuor Sheng and Samai, but Fu Ming and the other 2 caught up with her. That was why the scene in front of them had happened. "How did you know?" Samai's beautiful eyes widened as she looked at the evil young man in disbelief. "I've already set up a shielding array around you. Your messages can't escape my eyes." Fu Ming grinned. His smile was full of sarcasm and disdain. Samai's face was pale. No wonder her messages were like mud sinking into the sea. She did not get any reply from Zhuoan. Fat. Chapter 4061. Senior Fleeting Time, are you all right? Samai's eyes were filled with worry. Tuor Sheng's expression was solemn. He did not say a word. Instead, he spat out a mouthful of blood essence and channeled his divine energy into Fleeting Time's body through his palm. Fleeting Time opened her eyes with a bitter smile. "Tuor Sheng, I'm already at the end of my rope. Why are you wasting your divine energy by burning your blood essence?" Samai stared at Tuor Sheng in shock. She did not expect Tuor Sheng to risk his life to heal Fleeting Time. The cost of burning one's blood essence was too great. If it was light, one's cultivation level would drop, and if it was heavy, one's life would be in danger. Samai's relationship with fleeting time was only so. She would definitely not burn her blood essence to keep fleeting time alive. It seems that Senior Tuo Sheng really does have feelings for Senior Fleeting Time, Samai muttered to herself as she stared at Tuo Sheng. I want you to live. Tuo Sheng's words were simple. He spoke softly and seriously. Fleeting Time struggled to push Tuo Sheng away with the last of her strength. Fleeting Time fell to the ground due to the exhaustion of her strength. You're the ones who want me to live. Do you think I don't know my own condition? I've been poisoned. There's no hope for me. Tuo Sheng, if you continue to burn your blood essence and waste your divine energy on me, I'll cut off all ties between us. Fleeting Time's body twitched in pain as she lay on the ground. But she still managed to utter the words in her heart. Tuo Sheng stared helplessly at Fleeting Time, who was twitching in pain. He remained silent for a long time before he stood up, walked up to Fleeting Time, and hugged her in his arms. I want you to live. Tuo Sheng's voice was filled with stubbornness. He did not wait for Fleeting Time to speak as he continued to burn his blood essence to prolong Fleeting Time's life. No matter how much Fleeting Time struggled, Tuo Sheng's arms were like a pair of pliers. Junior Samai, you don't have to waste your divine energy. Just protect the formation plate in your hand. And I'm sorry for dragging you into this because of my selfishness. Tuo Sheng did not look at Samai. He lowered his head in shame. Samai immediately shook her head. Senior Tuo Sheng, why are you saying this? You and I are of the same race, so we should advance hand in hand. Moreover, the formation disc that Senior Brother Zhua gave me is very powerful. I'm afraid it's a heaven-breaking Tier 9 formation. Although the three of them are strong, it's not realistic for them to break in. Tuo Sheng nodded. He glanced at Fu Ming and the other two who were helpless outside the array and felt a little relieved. At the same time, he was even more curious and doubtful about Zhuowen. A Heaven Breaker Stage 9 array disc was extremely precious. Moreover, he could sense that the array disc Zhuowen gave Samai was not an ordinary Heaven Breaker Stage 9 array disc. This was because the great formation formed by this disc array was much more powerful than the heaven-breaking Stage 9 great formation he had seen in Huxley. He suspected that this might very well be a heaven-breaking Stage 9 array disc. Even in the eyes of the Huxley patriarch, Lu Ranjue, such a formation disc was an extremely tempting treasure. Even in the Hashu clan, formations of this level were exceedingly rare. Even his master, the Imperial Dragon King, who was one of the 9 kings of Huxley, could not take out such a formation disc. However, Zhuowen had easily given such a powerful formation disc to Samai, which made him feel incredulous. Could it be that Junior Brother Zhua is also a powerful formation Dao master? Tuo Sheng was even more shocked as he thought about it. Although Samai also realized that the formation disc that Zhuowen gave him was unusual, she did not think as much as Tuo Sheng. At this moment, Fu Ming and the other two who were outside the Great Formation were also at their wits' end. The formation disc in Samai's hand was too powerful. They had used all kinds of methods, but they still could not have any effect on the Great Formation. Fu Ming, this defensive formation is too strong. It's even stronger than the heaven-breaking Stage 9 array I've seen. I suspect that this is a defensive formation that surpasses the heaven-breaking Stage 9 array. Lung Feifei said with a frown. Feifei, your evaluation is too high. Do you think this is the legendary Eternal Level Array? Fu Ming asked curiously. This is definitely not an Eternal Level Array. I've seen Eternal Level Great Arrays from afar in more powerful realms, and I know how terrifying those great arrays are. However, there's still a huge gap between this great array and an Eternal Level Great Array. Feifei is right. This great formation is indeed stronger than a heaven-breaking Stage 9 array. I think this should be a half-step Eternal Level Array. Jian Wuqing suddenly said solemnly. Jian Wuqing said. Fu Ming and Feifei's expressions changed slightly. In fact, for the three of them, even a heaven-breaking Stage 9 array would be difficult to break, let alone a half-step Eternal Level Array. Now, it was even more impossible for them to break this great formation. It would be a waste of time if they continued to waste time. Let's go. We can't break this formation, Jian Wuqing said decisively. That's not necessarily true. Fu Ming suddenly revealed a sly smile and chuckled. Oh, Brother Fu, do you have any other ideas? Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei looked at Fu Ming with interest. Speaking of which, the two of them were actually very unwilling to leave just like that. In fact, they were tempted by the half-step eternal level array in Samai's hands. Even their clan had never owned such an item. After all, those who owned such an array were basically the powerful clans in the realm. They did not know what kind of luck Samai had to have obtained such a good item. Naturally, they did not want to give up on such an easy prey. Wasn't that female cultivator poisoned by me? Do you think it's an ordinary poison? It's a poison that I've been secretly refining for many years. It's specially targeted at the soul. It's called 9 Extremes Soul Captivation Poison. Fu Ming laughed sinisterly. Can this poison break the formation? Leng Feifei asked with a frown. Fu Ming smiled mysteriously and said, you just have to watch the show next. After saying that, Fu Ming did not say anything else. He placed his hands behind his back and silently looked at Liu Nian, who was in the ruins. Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing were unhappy with Fu Ming's deliberate suspense, but they did not ask any more questions. They just waited and watched. After a while, in the ruins, Liu Nian, who had been coughing out blood, suddenly looked much better. His face was also rosy. Senior sister Liu Nian, the poison in your body? Samai stared at Fleeting Time in bewilderment. The sudden change in Fleeting Time's complexion caught her off guard. On the other hand, Tuo Sheng was overjoyed to see Liu Nian's sudden recovery. Although his aura was weak, he was overjoyed. That's great, Liu Nian. You're fine. Tuo Sheng could not help but spread his arms and hugged Liu Nian tightly. However, Tuo Sheng did not see the strange red light in Liu Nian's eyes. Fart. Suddenly, Tuo Sheng spat out a mouthful of blood. His waist arched and he was sent flying. He finally landed heavily at the edge of the formation. Chapter 4062. Senior Liu Nian, you. Samai stared at Liu Nian in disbelief. She had just spoken when Liu Nian appeared in front of her like a phantom. Before Samai could react, Liu Nian's right hand had grabbed Samai's neck and lifted her up. Liu Nian, what are you doing? She's junior sister Samai. Tuo Sheng struggled to support himself with his hands. He was furious when he saw the scene before him. But Liu Nian ignored his words and snatched the formation plate from Samai's hand. Oh no! Samai's heart skipped a beat. She struggled to get the formation plate back from Liu Nian. Liu Nian's eyes were cold. He flung Samai away like a piece of trash and she landed not far away from Tuo Sheng. Close the formation plate. Suddenly, a cold and mocking voice came from outside the formation. Samai and Tuo Sheng looked in the direction of the voice. They were shocked to find that the owner of the voice was none other than Fu Ming. Liu Nian's eyes were unfocused. He actually did as Fu Ming said and closed the formation plate. The array Dao ripples around the ruins suddenly rippled violently, and then the layer of array Dao ripples vanished into thin air. Come here and give me the formation plate. Fu Ming's eyes were filled with fervor as he ordered Fleeting Time. Liu Nian was still in a daze. He walked stiffly toward Fu Ming. What did you do to Liu Nian? Tuo Sheng was furious. He charged at Liu Nian without any regard for his life. Fellow cultivator, extinguish the fire. Why are you so angry? Leng Feifei sneered. Her slender jade-like hand blasted out in the void. It seemed to pass through the void and landed lightly on Tuo Sheng's chest. Tuo Sheng could not react in time. He felt his chest go numb, and his body was frozen on the spot. Then, he was shocked to find that ice crystals were emerging from the palm on his chest and quickly spreading to his whole body. Not long after, his entire body turned into an ice sculpture. Senior Tuo Sheng, Samai cried out in grief. She did not realize that Jian Wuqing had unknowingly appeared behind her. Don't be sad. You'll be with them very soon. Jian Wuqing's cold voice rang out. His slender right hand formed a sword finger and pierced towards Samai's back. Jian Wuqing's attainments in the way of the sword were extremely high. An extremely sharp and powerful sword chi condensed on the sword fingers of her right hand, as if it was the most powerful divine sword in the world. Samai's body trembled. She was suppressed by Jian Wuqing's powerful aura and was unable to move. The only thing she could do was to stand there and wait for Jian Wuqing's sword to pierce her heart. Samai smiled bitterly. She knew that she could not avoid this killing move. What awaited her was only death. But what made her feel strange was that Jian Wuqing's sword finger was still unable to pierce through her heart. Fu Ming, Jian Wuqing, Leng Feifei, aren't you guys too much? We, Huxley, have given you enough face by allowing you to enter the Ghost King Ridge. Not only are you ungrateful, but you also slaughtered Huxley's men after entering the Ghost King Ridge. You're courting death. A cold and deep voice came from behind Samai. Only then did Samai realize that a young man in a luxurious blue robe had appeared in front of Jian Wuqing unknowingly. The young man's right hand was flashing with golden lightning. He grabbed Jian Wuqing's right hand, preventing him from entering Samai's back. He was the strongest of Huxley's younger generation, Lei Ling. At the same time, several figures rushed in from outside the stone forest and appeared around the ruins. Including Lei Ling, there were a total of 6 people. The Bear King's disciple, Zhong Tuo, was among the 6. Jian Wuqing snorted coldly. He flipped his right hand and a sharp sword chi burst out. Lei Ling frowned slightly. He had no choice but to let go of Jian Wuqing's hand and disperse the sword chi in front of him. Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei both retreated to Fu Ming's side and looked coldly at Lei Ling and the rest. Thank you, senior brother Lei Ling, for saving my life. Samai quickly bowed to Lei Ling. Lei Ling waved his hand and said, Junior sister Samai, you're too polite. You and I are both Huxley. Naturally, I can't leave you in the lurch. With that, Lei Ling also noticed Tuo Sheng, who was frozen in ice, and Fleeting Time, who was standing beside Fu Ming like a vegetable. He was furious. Yo! Lei Ling, what a big lineup. This way, all the disciples of the 9th king are here. Fu Ming said indifferently. Fu Ming, the 3 of you have gone overboard. Bing Yu, who was originally silent, glared at Fu Ming and the other 2. He shouted at them loudly for the first time. Overboard? No, no, no. This is just the beginning. We are planning to destroy all the Huxley disciples in Ghost King Ridge. We've only killed a dozen people. We haven't gone overboard yet. Fu Ming laughed. Lei Ling and the rest's faces darkened. Fu Ming was too arrogant. He wanted to destroy all the elite disciples of Huxley in Ghost King Ridge. This was a blatant provocation. Fu Ming, with just the 3 of you, do you think you can defeat the combined forces of my Huxley disciples? Zhong Tuo snorted. He suddenly took out a scroll and opened it in the air. The scroll floated in the air, and a river of stars flowed out from it. The specks of light in the river floated in the air, then immediately fell down and turned into figures. In an instant, dozens of figures appeared behind Lei Ling and the rest. These were basically the most elite cultivators of the younger generation in Huxley. Oh, so that's how it is. No wonder we didn't meet anyone after killing some of them. So you hid them in the space scroll. Fu Ming licked his lips and said excitedly, with just the few of you, it's not enough for us to kill. Fu Ming's next sentence completely ignited the anger of Lei Ling and the rest. This guy is too arrogant. What are we waiting for? Let's attack together and kill this bastard. What's there to be arrogant about? It's just the 3 of you. It's easy for us to kill you. Zhuowen's words immediately stirred up the crowd. Most of the young cultivators in Huxley were furious. Without waiting for Lei Ling's orders, they all took out their divine weapons and rushed toward Fu Ming and the rest. Lei Ling's expression changed. He wanted to stop them, but it was too late. The people in Huxley had already rushed out like wild horses. On the other hand, Fu Ming and the rest did not show any fear. Instead, they were full of anticipation. Feifei, Wuqing, don't fight with me. These people are mine. Fu Ming grinned and said to Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing. Chapter 4063. Fu Ming looked at the dozens of people rushing towards him and licked his lips. His eyes were burning with murderous intent. He stomped his foot and a terrifying purplish-black poisonous fog instantly erupted from his body. Ghost head poison array. Fu Ming's cold voice sounded slowly. Then, the purplish-black poisonous fog spread out with him as the center. Upon closer inspection, the shape formed by the purplish-black fog looked like a ghost head from afar. Ah ah ah. A mournful scream suddenly rang out. The young cultivators who had rushed into the ghost head poison array fell to the ground one by one. Their hands kept scratching their bodies until they were covered in blood and wounds. All of them were bleeding from their 7 orifices. The ghost head poison array was too strange. Once one was poisoned, their entire body would itch and be in extreme pain. As for the cultivators who were originally lagging behind, they hurriedly stopped their bodies and began to rapidly retreat. But Fu Ming obviously would not let them succeed. He took a step forward and appeared not far away from these cultivators like a ghost. Then, his 10 fingers moved as if he was playing some kind of heavenly music. Then, the cultivators who had retreated were shocked to find that the ghost head poison array suddenly opened its mouth. As if it had teleported, it appeared behind them and swallowed them all in one gulp. The strong poison affected them, causing them to be poisoned instantly and howl in pain. In just 5 breaths of time, the elite cultivators from Huxley who had surrounded Fu Ming were all dead. Only Lei Ling, Bingyu, Zhong Tuo and the rest were not affected because they did not act rashly. Roar. The ghost head poison array opened its ferocious mouth and roared in mid-air, rushing towards Lei Ling and the rest. Lei Ling snorted and took the first step forward. Golden divine lightning covered his entire body and countless lightning bolts escaped, making him look as mighty and extraordinary as a god. Zap zap zap. Terrifying lightning surged out of Lei Ling's body and surged in the air, exploding into a terrifying sea of golden lightning. Countless golden divine lightning landed in the ghost head poison array and completely destroyed it. But this poison array was too terrifying. Although it had been dispersed by the golden divine lightning, most of the poisoned cultivators were already dead. Fu Ming, you deserve to die. Lei Ling's eyes were red. Seeing his clansmen being slaughtered in front of him, he was furious and wanted to kill Fu Ming immediately. Lei Ling did not hesitate. The moment he finished speaking, his entire body was bathed in the divine thunder. Like a god, he charged towards Fu Ming. A devilish smile appeared on Fu Ming's lips. Lei Ling, I am no longer the same as before. You are no longer my opponent. With that said, Fu Ming also rushed out. Purple-black fog surged out from his body, and this fog revealed all kinds of ugly and ferocious heads. Boom! Boom! In an instant, Fu Ming and Lei Ling collided. The golden divine lightning and the purplish-black fog collided intensely, as if they were 2 worlds that were clearly separated. It was a spectacular sight in the sky. In an instant, Fu Ming and Lei Ling had exchanged more than 10 blows. Every time they exchanged blows, the energy ripples that burst out were extremely terrifying, and the surrounding space was torn apart and collapsed in large areas. And the 2 of them went all out, releasing their respective divine demons. Fu Ming's divine demon was a 6-winged black worm. This black worm's appearance was similar to a beetle, and there were 6 black eyes on the front of the hard flesh armor. On the other hand, Lei Ling's divine demon was a huge golden lightning hammer. The hammer was covered in dense golden lightning, and its aura was like a rainbow. It looked very terrifying. Following the battle between Lei Ling and Fu Ming, the 2 godfiends clashed fiercely in the sky, causing terrifying energy ripples to erupt like waves. Bingyu silently watched the battle between Fu Ming and Lei Ling. He frowned slightly. His eyes were extremely sharp, and he could acutely feel that Lei Ling was faintly at a disadvantage. Bingyu snorted coldly. His long hair fluttered without wind, and shadows of divine weapons appeared around him like a storm, surrounding him in the middle. Bingyu's right foot stepped on the ground, and he shot out like an arrow, charging towards Fu Ming and Lei Ling's battle. But not long after Bingyu shot out, he was blocked by a terrifying sword light. Bingyu had no choice but to retreat and dodge the sword light. He looked at the female cultivator who was not far away, and she was walking towards him step by step. Jian Wuqing, Bingyu frowned slightly, and he looked at the female cultivator with fear. Jian Wuqing was the most powerful cultivator among the younger generation in the Purple Mirage. Her sword Dao was extremely powerful, and much more terrifying than the average sword cultivator. Bingyu, you are the only one among the younger generation in Huxley who cultivates the weapon Dao. I cultivate the sword Dao alone, and it is a branch of the weapon Dao. Now, I plan to spar with you, and see if you are as powerful as the rumors say. Jian Wuqing slowly pulled out the divine sword on her back. Her footsteps were light, and her speed suddenly increased. She was like a rainbow, cutting across the sky, and instantly appeared in front of Bingyu. Bingyu's expression was ugly, but he reacted quickly. He immediately took out various divine weapons from his spiritual ring. He had a lot of divine weapons, and there were a total of 108 of them. Sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. Clang! Clang! Jian Wuqing's right hand shook, and the divine sword slashed out, transforming into countless terrifying sword shadows. Then, countless sparks exploded between the two sides. At the same time, Leng Feifei also attacked. Samai, Zhong Tuo, and the other disciples of the 9 kings of Huxley all attacked and fought with Leng Feifei. Leng Feifei was very strong. She was not at a disadvantage against 6 people, and she was even suppressing all 6 of them. She was in the limelight for a while. After about 10 rounds, Leng Feifei was the first to emerge victorious. 3 figures were hit in the chest by Leng Feifei and instantly turned into 3 ice sculptures. Oh no! We are no match for her. Run! Zhong Tuo was shocked when he saw that his 3 companions were severely injured. He ignored Samai and the other cultivator and turned to run. Zhong Tuo, you, Samai and the other cultivator were furious. Zhong Tuo was so cowardly that he ran away just like that. How could the 2 of them stop Leng Feifei? Leng Feifei looked coldly at Zhong Tuo's fleeing figure. She did not chase after him. Instead, she quickly appeared in front of Samai and the other cultivator. She heavily injured the cultivator and turned him into an ice sculpture. She did not hit Samai too hard. Instead, she took out a golden chain and tied Samai up. After that, she quickly chased after Zhong Tuo. Soon, Leng Feifei caught up with Zhong Tuo. Chapter 4064. After Leng Feifei finished off Zhong Tuo, Jian Wuqing and Bingyu had also finished their battle. After the terrifying weapon Shadow Storm was completely destroyed, Bing Deep's figure appeared in the air in a sorry state. Slash. Jian Wuqing's cold voice came from above Bingyu. Then, a divine sword fell from above and pierced through Bingyu's body. Bingyu spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground pathetically. After the divine sword pierced through him, it pinned him to the ground. Bingyu, your weapon skills are too weak. You're far from a divine weapon king. Jian Wuqing landed not far away from Bingyu and shook his head in disappointment. Bingyu was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood and fainted immediately. Leng Feifei and Jian Wuqing met up and couldn't help but look up at the sky. There, the golden divine lightning and the purplish black mist were fighting against each other. They were clearly separated on 2 sides. Under these 2 terrifying energies, they could clearly see 2 figures fighting at a rapid speed. Every time they collided, the energy shockwaves that burst forth were extremely powerful. Lei Ling's strength has increased a lot. I didn't expect him to fight with Fu Ming until now. Leng Feifei frowned. So what if Lei Ling is strong? He can't become an ancient star transformation. He can't be Fu Ming's opponent. Even you and I don't have a high chance of winning against Fu Ming, let alone Lei Ling. Jian Wuqing mocked. The 2 of them watched the battle silently for a while. Finally, the outcome was decided. In the sky, the golden divine lightning hammer was swallowed by the 6-winged black worm. Lei Ling, who was bathed in the golden divine lightning, seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. He groaned and his body stiffened for a moment. It was at this moment that he finally revealed a huge flaw. Fu Ming caught it and slammed his palm on Lei Ling's chest. The moment Fu Ming's right palm hit Lei Ling's chest, His right hand turned into a claw and pierced through Lei Ling's chest. Poison. Black poisonous blood spurted out from the corner of Lei Ling's mouth and his face turned purple. He looked at Fu Ming in pain and said angrily, "Fu Ming, you're really despicable. Every move you make is filled with poison." Lei Ling was indignant. Fu Ming's strength was actually not as good as his. However, Fu Ming's methods were too strange. He was a walking poison. The longer he fought with him, the more poison he would inhale, causing his strength to weaken endlessly. In the end, he was deeply poisoned and lost to Fu Ming. "Lei Ling, don't you know that all is fair in war? Also, I cultivate the Tao of poison. Releasing poison is one of my skills. How can you say that I'm despicable?" Fu Ming sneered. Lei Ling's expression turned even uglier and his consciousness became very blurry. He remained silent and did not answer Fu Ming. Fu Qiong landed on the ground and casually tossed Lei Ling onto the ground as though he was throwing away trash. "Brother Fu Gong, you've really hidden your strength well. Your cultivation has already reached the half-step ancient star transformation, right? You're already very close to the true ancient star transformation, right?" Jian Wuqing suddenly said. The two women had seen the battle just now. They could see that Lei Ling's strength had already reached the peak of the Fiend God transformation stage. However, he had still been easily defeated by Fu Ming. This could only mean that Fu Ming's strength was at least at the half-step ancient star transformation. "Wuqing, you've never asked before. If you ask me, I'll naturally tell you everything I know. I definitely won't hide such things from you," Fu Qiong said with a faint smile. Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei naturally did not believe Fu Ming's nonsense. However, they also knew that even if they continued to ask, Fu Ming would not tell them the truth. They might as well not ask. "Fu Ming, how do we split this array disk?" Leng Feifei suddenly asked. The array disk in Samai's hand was a half-step Eternal Realm supreme treasure. To them, it was too precious. It was enough to make them green with envy. Jian Wuqing also looked at Fu Ming. She unconsciously grabbed the hilt of the divine sword behind her back, her expression full of warning. "Both of you, to be honest, our Jinshui clan wants this array disk. However, you can rest assured that I won't take it for myself. I will report this matter to the clan leader. Our Jinshui clan promises to give both of you a share," Fu Qiong said. Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei's expressions immediately turned ugly. How could they not see that Fu Ming wanted to take it for himself? As for the latter's dignified words, the two women naturally would not foolishly believe them. Fu Ming looked at the two women indifferently. It was impossible for him to hand over the array disk. Moreover, he was not afraid of the two women. As he had deliberately concealed his strength, the two women had underestimated his strength by a lot. Now that he had exposed his true strength, even if the two women joined forces, they might not be able to defeat him. "Feifei, you're smart. You captured this woman alive." Fu Ming looked at Samai, who was lying on the ground not far away, and said indifferently. Leng Feifei stood in front of Samai and said warily, "Fu Ming, I captured this woman. Don't even think about touching her." Fu Ming's eyes flickered, but he smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'm not that despicable. I'm just curious. Why would such an ordinary female cultivator have a half-step Eternal Realm array disk? It's really unbelievable." Jian Wuqing and Leng Feifei were also confused. They also found it unbelievable that Samai had such an array disk. "What? This is a half-step Eternal Realm array disk?" Samai, who was bound and could not move, exclaimed in disbelief when she heard Fu Ming and the others' conversation. "This is your array disk. You don't know its level?" Leng Feifei frowned. Samai did not hear it and was in a daze. "Senior brother Zhuo actually gave such a precious array disk to me. What about him?" At this moment, Samai was not thinking about why Zhuowen had such an array disk. Instead, she was worried about Zhuowen's safety. Seeing Samai in a daze, Leng Feifei looked unhappy. She kicked Samai and said coldly, "I'm asking you something. Didn't you hear me? Or are you deaf?" Samai glanced at Leng Feifei coldly and lowered her head, not saying a word. Obviously, She did not want to cooperate with Lung Feifei. Lung Feifei was furious. Just as she was about to teach Samai a lesson, Fu Ming's movements attracted her attention. Fu Ming's expression was strange as he took out the array disc from his spirit ring. This array disc emitted a rich white light, and waves of powerful fluctuations burst out from the array disc. What's wrong with this array disc? Fu Ming's eyes were full of confusion. Jian Wuqing and Lung Feifei were the same. They also could not figure out what was wrong with the array disc. Suddenly, the array disc shook violently. Fu Ming was actually forced to take a few steps back, and his hands could not help but let go of the array disc. Chapter 4065. The young man was dressed in black, and his shoulder-length black hair fluttered in the wind. Fu Ming and the other two were dumbfounded. They never thought that someone would appear in front of them from the disc array. Especially when they saw the face of the young man in front of them. Fu Ming, Lung Feifei, and Jian Wuqing looked as if they had seen a ghost. They all looked terrified. This was because the young man in front of them was none other than Zhuowen, whom they had seen in the prison. But this Zhuowen just had to be ridiculously powerful. Even the Ghost King's incarnation was destroyed by this guy. They were all puzzled. Why would Zhuowen suddenly appear here? There must be a temporary teleportation array in this disc array. Fu Ming immediately reacted. He had studied array formation before. Although he was not proficient in it, he could feel that the array formation ripples emitted by the disc array were formed by a temporary teleportation array. In other words, Zhuowen had been teleported here through the temporary teleportation array in the disc array. Could this disc array be related to this person? Fu Ming and the other two were not fools. They immediately thought that Zhuowen must be related to the disc array. Fu Ming even suspected that the true owner of the disc array might be Zhuowen. Without a doubt, Fu Ming's guess was right. Zhuowen had given the disc array to Samai to save her life. Senior brother Zhuo, you're finally here. Samai, who was lying on the ground not far away, was excited when she saw Zhuowen suddenly appear. She could not help but call out. Zhuowen only noticed Samai's situation now. His expression was cold as he stepped to Samai's side. With a wave of his right hand, the ropes on her were cut and destroyed. Junior sister Samai, what happened here? Zhuowen saw the severely injured Lei Ling and Tuo Sheng, who had turned into ice sculptures, not far away. His expression did not look good. Although he was asking Samai, he already had a guess in his heart. His gaze fell on Fu Ming and the other two. He knew these three people. They were the strongest geniuses of the Jinshui clan, God's Eye, and Purple Mirage. Before the Ghost King Ridge opened, Samai had introduced them to him. Senior Martial Brother Zhuo. The three of them started massacring the young cultivators of Huxley indiscriminately. Most of our clansmen in the Ghost King Ridge have been killed by them. Sami said with grief and indignation. Hearing this, Zhuowen's expression was calm, and he was not as angry as Samai. Speaking of which, Zhuowen wasn't one of Huxley's people. Moreover, he had just joined Huxley not long ago. He didn't have any sense of belonging to Huxley. As for Huxley's young cultivator being killed, he didn't feel any anger or other strange emotions at all. In Zhuowen's opinion, as long as Sami was fine, he didn't care what happened to the others. Of course, when he saw Tuo Sheng turn into an ice sculpture, his expression did not look too good. Although he did not have a close relationship with Tuo Sheng treated him with sincerity, so he had a good impression of him. Now that he saw Tuo Sheng in such a state, he naturally felt unhappy. Lei Ling struggled to raise his head and said in a trembling voice, Zhuowen, get out of here quickly. You are no match for the three of them. Most of the Huxley's people in Ghost King Ridge are dead. Now, you are the only one who has any hope of escaping this calamity. You hide, and when the 1 month's time is up, go out and report to the clan leader about what happened here. Lei Ling spat out a mouthful of blood. Relying on his strong willpower, he supported his body and walked in front of Zhuowen. Pitter-patter. Once again, waves of golden lightning surged out of Lei Ling's body. However, the golden divine thunder that Lei Ling released this time was much weaker than the one he had released at the beginning. Zhuoan looked at Lei Ling, who was standing in front of him, with a complicated expression. He was a smart person, and naturally, he could tell that Lei Ling was already at the end of his rope. If Lei Ling was hit by Fu Ming's attack again, he would really die. However, he resolutely stood in front of him to buy time for him to escape. Although Zhuoan didn't have a good impression of Lei Ling when he challenged him previously. However, now that Lei Ling had disregarded life and death for his people, Zhuoan felt deep respect for him. Lei Ling dared to take responsibility for his actions. He was much more responsible and upright than Zhong Tuo. Samai stepped forward as well. She smiled sweetly at Zhuoan and said, "Senior brother Zhuo, I'm really happy that you were able to save me at the last moment. But what senior brother Lei Ling said is not true. Fu Ming and the other two are too strong. Senior brother Zhuo, you should escape quickly. Don't get caught by them." Zhuoan smiled bitterly. He didn't blame Samai and Lei Ling. After all, when he was in Huxley, he had hidden his strength very well. The two of them didn't know how strong he was. Although Fu Ming and the other two were strong, could they be stronger than the Ghost King's incarnation? Zhuoan was about to say something to reassure the two of them when Fu Ming and the other two, who were originally aggressive, did the same thing. They retreated in unison, and then without saying a word, they quickly fled into the distance. Their speed was so fast that it was simply breathtaking. Before Zhuoan could react, Fu Ming and the other two had already disappeared. Lei Ling and Samai, who had planned to die generously, were even more dumbfounded. What the F***ck was going on? Didn't Fu Ming and the other two just beat them up until they cried for their parents and almost killed them all? They were very impressive. Why did he run away without saying a word? Furthermore, he ran away so quickly. Wasn't this a little too exaggerated? Lei Ling and Samai were not fools. They couldn't help but look at Zhuoan. With Fu Ming and the other two's strength, it was naturally impossible for them to be afraid of the two of them. The only possibility was that Fu Ming ran away because of Zhuoan. In other words, the three of them were afraid of Zhuoan. Senior brother Zhuo, they seem to be very afraid of you. Samai's expression was complicated as she said to Zhuoan in a low voice. They seem to be a little afraid of me. Zhuoan was also dumbfounded. Speaking of which, this was the first time he had met Fu Ming and the other two after entering the Ghost King Ridge. They had not even fought with each other before. Why did the three of them run faster than rabbits when they saw him? Zhuoan naturally did not expect that Fu Ming and the other two saw his battle with the Ghost King's incarnation and thought that they were no match for Zhuoan. Naturally, it was impossible for them to fight with Zhuoan. Zhuoan, what's going on? Why are they afraid of you? Lei Ling asked curiously. I want to know too. Zhuoan said helplessly. Let's not talk about this for now. You guys go and save them first. Zhuoan calmed down. With that, he walked towards Tuo Sheng's ice sculpture. Lei Ling and Samai also reacted and hurriedly walked towards the remaining survivors. What made their expressions ugly was that although the people who were frozen by Lung Feifei still had breath, they had no other way to break the ice on the surface of the ice sculpture. They had no choice but to save Bingyu first. Chapter 4066. Zhuoan walked in front of Tuo Sheng's ice sculpture. He walked around the ice sculpture and finally stopped in front of Tuo Sheng. Lung Feifei's ice elemental power was extremely strong. The cultivators who were sealed in ice by her would have their flesh and blood fused with the ice on their bodies. Once the ice layer was forcefully broken, the cultivators sealed in the ice would die without a doubt. Zhuoan frowned. This method was too strange. Even he had never seen it before. He didn't even know how to save Tuo Sheng. Senior Zhuo, I think senior brother Tuo Sheng and the others are still alive. If we break the ice layer, we should be able to save them. Samai walked over and said softly. No. The ice layer is linked to their lives. If we break the ice layer, they will die. Zhuoan said seriously. Samai was shocked and quickly withdrew her hand. She did not even dare to touch Tuo Sheng. Doesn't that mean we can't save them? Samai was shocked. I can try. Zhuowen said in a low voice and walked in front of Tuo Sheng. He moved his 10 fingers and wisps of purple-gold energy flowed out from his fingertips. Then, lines of formation runes spread out in all directions with Zhuowen as the center. These formation runes silently flowed into the ice sculpture. Samai and Lei Ling looked at Zhuowen's actions nervously. They were worried that if Zhuowen failed, Tuo Sheng would die. After about 15 minutes, Zhuowen withdrew his right hand. The ice sculpture in front of him emitted a purple-gold light. Then, the ice layer on the surface of the ice sculpture fell off. Under Samai's nervous gaze, Tuo Sheng slowly opened his eyes. What's wrong? Hey, Junior Zhuo, why are you here? Tuo Sheng was puzzled at first. Then, he saw Zhuowen and could not help but ask in surprise. Zhuowen roughly explained what had happened. Tuo Sheng then understood that his life was saved by Zhuowen. Junior Zhuo, thank you so much for saving my life. Tuo Sheng quickly expressed his gratitude. Zhuowen waved his hand. He did not care too much. After all, he had a good impression of Tuo Sheng. It was reasonable for him to save him. Junior Zhuo, I have a favor to ask of you. Suddenly, Tuo Sheng knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Zhuowen. His voice was very humble. What is it? Zhuowen was surprised. He did not know what Tuo Sheng's request was for him to kneel. Please save junior sister Liunian. She's been poisoned by Fu Ming, and she's not in her right mind. I know junior martial brother is very powerful. Maybe you can save her. Tuo Sheng bowed and begged in a low voice. Zhuowen looked in the direction Tuo Sheng was pointing at and saw a young female cultivator standing there with a blank look in her eyes not far away. Zhuowen thought for a moment and nodded. Let me take a look. If I can solve it, I will save her. Tuo Sheng was overjoyed. He thanked Zhuowen profusely. After Zhuowen had shown his strength and saved his life, Tuo Sheng had completely regarded Zhuowen as an invincible existence. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly when he checked Liunian's body. Liunian's body was completely invaded by a deadly poison. Her flesh, blood, meridians, and even her soul were all poisoned. Truth be told, Fleeting Time was no longer alive. He was nothing more than an empty shell, a puppet waiting to be toyed with by its master. The real Liunian was long dead. Senior brother Tuo Sheng, her soul has been extinguished and her life force has been extinguished. She is completely dead. Zhuowen sighed. Plop. Tuo Sheng knelt on the ground as if he had been hit by a heavy blow. He gripped the ground tightly and began to cry loudly. I'm sorry. Junior Liunian, I failed to protect you. It's my fault. It's all my fault. Tuo Sheng wailed. His voice was filled with sorrow and pain. Zhuowen looked at Tuo Sheng silently without saying anything. Although he did not know the relationship between Tuo Sheng and Liunian, he could tell that it was not an ordinary relationship. Lei Ling, Samai, and Bingyu, who had partially recovered, silently looked at Tuo Sheng who was crying. They all had expressions of sympathy. Zhuowen, can you save the others? Lei Ling suddenly came to Zhuowen's side and pointed at the other ice sculptures as he spoke in a rather submissive tone. At this moment, he no longer had any pride. To be more precise, he was completely convinced by Zhuowen. This person could scare off Fu Ming and the other two without making a move, and save Tuo Sheng the moment he made a move. To him, all of this could be called a miracle. But to Zhuowen, it was not worth mentioning. He knew that all of this was caused by the huge difference in their abilities. Therefore, he put down all of his pride and dignity, bowed his head and begged Zhuowen for mercy, just to save his companion. Zhuowen looked deeply at Lei Ling, who was begging in front of him. He did not say a word, but took out a disc formation and imprinted the formation to save Tuo Sheng on it. Activate the formation on this disc formation and you will be able to break the ice on them. Zhuowen threw the disc formation to Lei Ling. After receiving the disc formation, Lei Ling thanked him profusely. After that, Zhuowen prepared to leave the place. Senior Zhuo, where are you going? Samai noticed Zhuowen's actions and quickly asked. I'm going to chase after Fu Ming and the other two. Zhuowen replied without turning back. After knowing that Fu Ming and the other two dared to kill so wantonly in Ghost King Ridge, Zhuowen had already guessed something. The three big clans did not come with good intentions. This time, Huxley would be in big trouble. Fu Ming and the other two were the strongest geniuses of the three big clans. To the three big clans, they were extremely important juniors. The three of them might be useful to him, so how could he let them go just like that? After a while, Zhuowen's figure disappeared from the stone forest. Although Fu Ming and the other two had disappeared, Zhuowen had left a trick in the disc formation in Fu Ming's hands. He had left his aura on the disc formation, so he could follow it and track Fu Ming and the other two. Although Samai really wanted to go with Zhuowen, she also knew that her strength was too weak. If she went, she would only drag Zhuowen down. Just as Samai was in a daze, Lei Ling had already used the disc formation to save the rest. Junior sister Samai, do you want to see Zhong Tuo? Why can't I find his ice sculpture? Lei Ling came to Samai's side and asked. Samai pointed to the depths of the stone forest and said, Zhong Tuo abandoned us and ran in that direction. I don't know if Lung Feifei caught up with him. Speaking of Zhong Tuo, undisguised disgust appeared in Samai's eyes. She despised Zhong Tuo's actions. She was not willing to save that Zhong Tuo. Lei Ling fell silent. A trace of helplessness and disdain flashed across his eyes. Obviously, he did not like Zhong Tuo's actions. I think Zhong Tuo should have escaped. We don't have to look for him. Let's find a place to hide until the 1-month deadline is up. After Lei Ling finished speaking, he patted Samai's shoulder and went to arrange for the others to find a place to hide. Chapter 4067. On the outskirts of the Ghost King Ridge, in a mountainous area, 3 figures appeared in a rather embarrassing state. They were panting and looked very flustered. As they ran, they would look back from time to time, as if they were afraid that something was chasing after them. In the end, the 3 of them stopped in a crack under a huge black rock. They set up a concealment array outside the crack and completely concealed their auras. Damn it! I can't believe we met this guy. How unlucky. Fu Ming punched the rock wall beside him. His eyes were filled with shock and anger as he spoke unwillingly. These 3 people were Fu Ming, Jian Wuqing, and Lung Feifei. After they escaped, they ran as fast as they could, as if they were afraid that Zhuowen would catch up and kill them. Jian Wuqing and Lung Feifei also had lingering fears. Their faces were full of bitter smiles. I heard them call him Zhuowen. Have you heard of this person's name? Lung Feifei asked with a bitter smile. Fu Ming and Jian Wuqing looked at each other and shook their heads. The name Zhuowen was too unfamiliar to them. They had never heard of it at all. This person can easily get rid of the Ghost King's incarnation. That means he must have the strength of the ancient star transformation, and from the looks of it, he's not old. He's also Huxley's younger generation. But this person doesn't reveal himself. Even we haven't heard of him. Do you think this Zhuowen is Huxley's trump card? Jian Wuqing suddenly said. Wuqing's words make sense. I was wondering why Huxley opened the Ghost King Ridge to us so readily. It turns out that he still has such a trump card. Lung Feifei agreed. Fu Ming frowned slightly. Although he was unwilling, he knew the gap between him and Zhuowen. No matter how bold he was, he would not dare to fight Zhuowen head-on. It's almost a month's time. Our mission to enter the Ghost King Ridge has been completed. Although it's a pity that we can't wipe out Huxley's younger generation, but now, we can only hide for now until the time is up. Fu Ming made this suggestion with a serious expression. Although he was arrogant, he still knew his own limits. He knew that if he were to clash head-on with Zhuowen now, it would be like hitting a rock with an egg. Lung Feifei and Sword Ruthless nodded their heads repeatedly. After witnessing the battle between the Ghost King and Zhuowen, they had already lost their fighting spirit towards Zhuowen. Bang! Suddenly, the sound of a huge explosion came from outside the crack. After that, the entire huge black rock trembled violently. Countless rocks fell from the top of the mountain like rain. The expressions of Fu Ming and the other two changed drastically. Before they could react, The concealment array they had set up outside the gap had already been torn apart. Then, they saw a slender figure slowly walking towards the crack they were in. Especially when they saw the true face of this figure, they all sucked in a breath of cold air, and then all of them showed extreme fear. "You! How did you find us?" Lung Feifei's beautiful eyes constricted, and she could not help but ask in a sharp voice. Although Sword Ruthless and Fu Ming did not speak, from the serious expressions on their faces, it could be seen how heavy their hearts were. "Do you think you can leave so openly after taking my things?" Zhuowen sneered. "Your things? Could you be talking about that array disk?" Fu Ming was not stupid. He immediately thought of the array disk he had obtained from Samai. He did not expect Zhuowen to be so cunning and actually tamper with the array disk. However, this made Fu Ming and the other two even more afraid of Zhuowen. This person was too meticulous and was so powerful. They were even less confident against Zhuowen. "Fu Ming, Ruthless, what should we do?" Lung Feifei had the weakest composure among the three. Her delicate body trembled as she asked Fu Ming and Sword Ruthless in a trembling voice. "This person has already blocked our path of retreat. It's impossible for us to retreat even if we want to. Now, our only way out is to fight to the death. Only then will we have a chance of survival." Fu Ming's eyes flickered with a fierce glint as he reminded Lung Feifei and Sword Ruthless solemnly. Lung Feifei and Sword Ruthless also calmed down. What Fu Ming said was not without reason. Now, the only thing in front of them was to fight to the death. Zhuowen silently looked at the three people's extreme reactions and was even more puzzled. It was clearly the first time they had met, but the three of them seemed to have known him for a long time and knew his background. That was why they were so afraid of him. "Have the three of you seen me before?" Zhuowen leaned against the rock wall casually. As he spoke, he formed seals. Array patterns surged out and spread out densely, instantly enveloping the entire black rock. Fu Ming and the other two naturally felt the fluctuations of the array patterns. Their expressions changed drastically, but they did not dare to move. They knew that once they moved, Zhuowen would definitely attack. This was a nightmare for them. "Speak." Seeing the three of them hesitate, Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. He suddenly shouted, his voice filled with terrifying killing intent. "Do it." Fu Ming shouted coldly and attacked first. Waves of purplish-black fog swept over like waves. Sword Ruthless and Lung Feifei were extremely tacit. The moment Fu Ming attacked, they joined forces and rushed out from both sides. One on the left and one on the right, surrounding Zhuowen in the middle. Fu Ming was the first to appear in front of Zhuowen. He was good at using poison. The purplish-black fog surrounding him and his entire body were filled with extremely terrifying poison. At the same time, the moment Fu Ming arrived in front of Zhuowen, he also released his own godfiend, the six-winged black worm. Zhuowen stood on the spot, not moving at all. In the blink of an eye, the purplish-black poisonous fog swept over and enveloped Zhuowen. Seeing this scene, Fu Ming's lips curled into a sinister smile. "Hee. When you fought with the Ghost King, I saw how powerful you were. I thought you were very powerful. Now it seems that I overestimated you. Even an ancient star transformation expert would not dare to casually resist my poison. And who do you think you are? How dare you come into contact with my poisonous fog? You will definitely lose." Fu Ming laughed loudly. The moment the poisonous fog enveloped Zhuowen, he knew that he had won. He knew very well how terrifying his poisonous fog was. Once he was poisoned, no matter how powerful this Zhuowen was, he would not be a match for him. Fu Ming, who had completely relaxed, hovered above the poisonous fog. His divine will controlled the six-winged black worm to enter the black fog. He wanted the six-winged black worm to kill Zhuowen in the poisonous fog and then personally bring his corpse to him. Suddenly, a purplish gold sword light rose from the depths of the poisonous fog. Then, the poisonous fog that had spread for several miles dissipated. Fu Ming's body trembled violently, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with fear because at that moment, he had sensed that his godfiend had been killed by some powerful force. And he had also suffered a backlash from this force, causing him to feel as if he had suffered a heavy blow. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.